Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show today. Happy to have you here. We're going to be getting into some interesting things. There's lots and lots of news going on about Star Wars. Although I don't know how interested I am in it, I will cover it because you guys know I've kind of noped out on that. But nevertheless, first thing I'm going to do is go over in here and hit that like and share button on the video. I hope you guys do the same. Let people know we're up and everybody could come in and enjoy with us and share their opinions and such. But hopefully you all had a good weekend. Mine was quiet. I did a lot of reading, which is kind of what I do. But I did read again the new, not new, but I read the Monte Cook Cipher System because hopefully I'll be switching over to that on the Bugbear's Basement, and it's a really good system. And let me just get this in here. And it's from Monty Cook, and if you know anything about Dungeons and Dragons and role playing, in general, the guy's very influential. He's prolific as hell. I mean, the amount of stuff he's written is kind of insane. But he's got his own system, cipher system, and a lot of people have borrowed from it, and and I understand why. But I just went and read through that again because make sure I'm up on it and stuff. But the other one I read was a anthrogenetic paper on the which is really interesting on the genome project's push into India and Southeast Asia and the difficulties they're having. But that's a really good project. If you are not part of the genome project, I suggest you do. It's very helpful. I guess the ultimate goal would be to have a genetic breakdown of every human on Earth. Because the more they get, the more information they have about trying to understand our past, and it's a multi-layered research project, but it costs you about $100, I think, or $120, something like that. And your DNA is going on record, so they're getting all the everybody, so they can kind of look at the differences and compare, and so we can understand genetics better. But it also gives you complete and very accurate breakdown of your genealogy, your genetic history. A lot of these places you can go and do that. I don't know how much they cost. They're cheaper or more expensive, I guess. And I'd imagine some of them are probably connected to the Project, but others aren't, and they're not horribly accurate. But I would, suggest it's kind of fun thing to do, and it's helping out the scientists for sure. But anyway, I always kind of keep up on what they're doing. It's definitely something that I'm interested in. Now, with that boring thing out of the way, that was my weekend, and I had a good time. Hopefully, you guys did as well. Today, we're going to be getting into a bunch of different stuff, but like I said, there's a lot of Star Wars stuff coming out right now, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And I'm kind of curious of what you guys think about all of that. Are you interested in anything with Star Wars, or are you kind of like me and just noped out of it? Because I don't know, everything I like just seems to be just being disrespected, and I'd rather just not. You know, they own it; they could do whatever they want, of course. So I kind of just noped out. Roger says, so it's like one gigantic Noah's Ark, in a way. The Genome Project, I'm sure it's serving other purposes. You know how scientists are, but the main idea of it was to really get a good map. They've been doing this for a very long time. The idea was to get a really good map of, a genetic map of humanity, so that we could start to understand and compare to the historical finds that we have. So for anthropologists, it's like an essential thing, and it's very helpful to us because we started understanding a lot more about human migration in the past. And we're a hybrid species, where we all are, right? There are no purebred humans anymore. Even though some people think they are, they're not. But it just helps us understand it. But because I'm sure, Roger, when you went to school, or anybody else listening, you were told that there are three major human groups, right? You have what are they, Thundera? You got the Caucasoids, right?
That's one.
And what's the other ones?
You got the Negroid.
You got the Negroids, and the last one.
And my favorite one is Mongoloid because it just sounds cool.
Well,
A
it's
Mongoloid.
Mongoloid, but
It still sounds good.
it does, it does. But we're starting to learn that the root species of men are more. It's broader than that. And once you understand that, it starts making a lot more sense, actually, when you start looking
Yeah.
historically and stuff. And the Genome Project is helping us understand that. I'm not part of the Genome Project. I don't get any money from it. I've submitted my DNA and my family's DNA as well. I just on the back end, I get genetic reports, like I just was reading, that are interesting and useful to me. But I just think it's a really cool endeavor because they're just trying to track our history. And for $100, you can get a complete and a very accurate, because these guys are real scientists, not like some of those hack groups you can go pay for to get stuff. You'll get a pretty accurate rundown of your genealogical history, which is kind of fun, and you're helping them out for $100. I mean, if you got $100, I mean, and you know, I think it's helpful. That's my main thing, Thunder. I hope people keep going to, and they're having trouble in India and Southeast Asia though. There because we need that information because it's pretty clear the Indians are a root species, right? I mean, it's kind of obvious, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
I'd say so.
yeah.
Yeah, my problem is that I don't trust a lot of those, especially the fly by night ones.
Well,
You got a lot
genome
of these
projects.
companies out here that promise to tell you your genetic history, and then they'll come back and tell you things that you know to be completely untrue.
Right. That's why I suggest these
So
guys because these are the originators. These are these are
right,
scientists that are doing historical stuff. The other ones are just trying to make money on you. You know.
yeah. And then what they'll do is because they say, well, we have more data now, so we have a better understanding, and they'll
Hmm.
randomly start changing your results if you look it up. And
Sure.
I'm like, what?
Yeah. No.
Genetic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. It's not like it's a perfect science yet. But that's why the Genome Project I think is useful. We're trying to get a better handle on it. And I understand a lot of
Yeah.
people kind of will set up companies and sell that. I get it. But if you're going to do it, the Genome Project is the way to go. And it's you are helping because I do know some of the people with the project. Like I said, I'm not promoting it. I don't get anything for it, but they're doing real science and real history here. It's not a scam. So yeah, but I just got a report in a paper on how's this going in India and Southeast Asia. It's not going well, by the way. Yeah. I don't know. They don't want to give their because what they'll do is they'll send teams out. You see, and they'll go into all over the world, and they've of course been in India and Southeast Asia, and they'll just swab their mouth, right? That's it. But you just there's some reason the people in that Asia in that Southeast Asian area, India, Southeast Asia, they're just not interested in being involved in it, and they're like, oh, no, thank you, as they bob their heads side to side. Um, so I don't know what the big deal is. They're just swabbing just literally getting a little bit of saliva so they can create this big giant chain of genetics across the planet. You know,
Yeah. I just don't trust them.
I get it. I get
I
it.
don't. I don't trust. I don't trust any big multinational institutions, especially. I mean, I barely trust local institutions. There's just a lot of incentive for them to do nefarious things with that data, and
Yeah,
I don't
fair.
like it.
And I understand that thinking, and one of the things I don't really care because I understand what they're doing, but one of the things that might be useful is not taking people's names. But they're scientists, right? So they want to have multiple layers of data, right? Because it'd probably be better if they didn't attach a name at all. They just attached a region and ethnicity, and then because all they really need is genetic data. Who gives a shit what your name is? I mean, honestly, they
Right.
don't really
Well,
need it.
that's one of the reasons why, like, I think we're way too, and it comes from our society being a very used to be anyway a very high trust society. So you could give out a lot of
Sure.
information about yourself to people, and it wasn't a big deal because you didn't have to worry about it. Well, those days are over. That's all. That's been over for 30 years at least.
I suppose, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I honestly think for just about everything, you shouldn't need to give your name.
Yeah.
Unless it's like an official document. There's Why do they need my name?
No, you're
Why in
right.
God's name do they need my actual name?
People have got sensitive, and Europe was, one of the first places to get done, 20 some years ago, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't have those problems. Matter of fact, the group that we understand the best so far from the Genome Project are the particularly European or we'll just use the word Celtic. It's not accurate, but it's just the Celts, right?
Hmm.
Because the Aryans are a much broader group now because they've intermixed a lot. Northern Indians are technically part of the Aryan movement, right? But the Celts, we're talking about, white Europeans, and
Right.
because of that, though. See, here's the benefit, though, because that Europe has been, and they've done a lot of stuff in America too, but they're dislocated right from their homogeny. But
Sure.
the Europeans, from that information, we understand very clearly it was what because for a long time you had kind of pushback about Cro-Magnon, right? And Cro-Magnon, no, Cro-Magnon was some pre-human. The other group was like, no, they're just white people, right? And there's been this push for a long time, right? But the genetic information showed that yeah, they're just white people. We don't
Yeah.
we shouldn't even use the word Cro-Magnon unless we want to use that for the root name, which is fine with me. But in doing so, they were able to track because they're comparing this to ancient finds, right? Human finds and stuff like that. They're compiling it on both ends, right? The living and the dead, right? And what they were able to do with the Celtic or Cro-Magnon people was to track them all the way back to their origin, which is in, Northeast America, the New England, all the way out to Missouri and all the way up into Canada. I mean, that's where they're from, the Cro-Magnons, right? And because of the,
Hmm.
the the Genome Project, we were able to do this. That's pretty cool, dude. And the
Yeah.
other groups, we'll be able to track them better too and understand ourselves a lot better. For me, it's like, yeah, man, that's the awesome thing, and I want to see more of it. But I get the reservation of in modern day. I do.
Yeah. Well, it would be different if we had, we didn't have a global elite, I'll call them,
Hmm.
that is obviously nefarious. Like
Oh
it's
well.
ridiculous to even say it's not. When they go around, they go to like this Davos and they go to other conventions and they start talking
Right.
about how they need to track everybody's. They track everybody already, but now they need to track what's inside of you. Right?
Yeah.
One of
No,
them
I
was
know.
that's what they're talking about. Stuff like that, and
Yeah.
I'm like, no, no, we
Yeah.
won't be
Well,
doing that.
they've always been there. It's not like they're new. Uh, but I
No,
get.
exactly.
Yeah, I get your
That's the
point.
problem. The problem is not that they're there. The problem is they're way more influential than they used to be.
Yeah. Well,
And now they have pretty much every major country is on board, and that's a serious problem.
yeah. No, no, I get it. I understand that. And this carbon footprint tracking. I'm like, yeah, sure. Are you going to do it?
No, no,
Of course
that's
they're
for the
not.
plebs. You see,
Yeah.
yeah, that's for the serfs. That isn't for
I do
us
think
of noble birth.
I do think they prefer the word peon, just so you know.
Yes.
Um, uh, but uh, but yeah, no, I understand all that. But like these people have always been here. They've been manipulating us for since the beginning of time. Is what they do. But I understand modern reservations. But once again, if you can hear my voice and you got an extra $100, don't waste it on any of these other things. Just go to the Human Genome Project because you're actually directly helping scientists. You really are. Not only you keeping them from having to generate more grant money because you're basically paying. All you're doing is paying for the test, the shipping and
Right.
all that stuff. That's all you're doing is paying for all that. So you're saving them from having to scrounge up grant money. And trust me, it's a pain in the ass. right?
Hmm.
You're getting information that's pretty accurate for you, but you're helping the overall cause. And Even if you're a Cro-Magnon, I'll start using that, or a Celt, still, more information isn't going to hurt. Although that has really been hammered out. The thing is, it was funny. It was I don't know, a couple of years ago, year and a half ago, or something like that. I was watching a like a board discussion, where they have put them on stage and they got the like 6 or 8 people sitting down and they'll have a conversation with the moderator. They were doing like this thing, and they were talking about anthropology and anthrogenetics and stuff like that. I know, boring. You guys wouldn't want to watch it, but excuse me. During the conversation, there were actually people accusing of racism. That well, you got the white people done already, didn't you? I mean, it was literally that kind of attitude. And it was like, yeah, well, the white people are the only ones that were happy to do it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so even something as innocuous as simply trying to gather human information is now Nazi racism. Unbelievable,
yeah,
dude.
yeah. Just like math, right? Math's
Yeah,
racist.
yeah.
Science itself is racist.
What's going on with that, dude?
I don't know. Here's what really is. It's all a massive cope because for some reason, a large group of non-white people,
Uh huh.
typically of the darker variety,
Uh
are
huh.
very shitty at that particular activity, that particular
Right. Well,
study,
that's a culture
mathematics.
problem, though.
Yeah,
That's a
I
culture
know.
problem.
I know that.
It's not
You
a
know
racial
that.
problem. Yeah.
But they want to cope, right? And they say, well, look, Asians are real good at it, and white people are real good at it. That must be some kind of racism, or
Yeah.
or
No,
they're just smarter than you.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, and this is anything that they seem to fail at is somehow racism. Where the opposite should be doing, because if you go back in time, history, that thing we have, and you take a look, some of the great mathematicians coming out of the Middle East, because there were, while the Christians were running around and living in their own filth,
Yep.
the Muslims actually had a beautiful golden age under the Anatolian, uh, you know, emperors or leaders, right? The Byzantine Empire, and
Right.
some of those great mathematicians of that kind of golden age, they were black. Oh,
Shh.
yeah,
Not allowed.
they
That's
were
not
from they
allowed.
were from like Sudan.
One of the greatest, maybe the greatest living economist is. I mean, he's pretty black. You
Yeah,
don't get much
so
blacker
yeah,
than Thomas Sowell.
yeah,
And he's only going to be with us a little bit while longer. Unfortunately,
true.
he's pretty old.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
he might be the greatest living mind in
eh,
that field.
I don't agree with that at all. I
No.
no, I don't. I think he's a solid economist, but I give him his credit is not there. His credit is reasonable speech to the world and particularly his own people. He has a very subtle way of doing it, but he's trying to speak to the black community in America, particularly, and kind of let them know that your problems are self-induced. Is really that's what
Hmm.
I think he's really good at. His economic abilities are fine. He's a professional economist, and that's more than
Hmm.
I could say for a lot of them these days. To be fair, so in that regard, he is pretty good. But I hear that a lot, and I think it's just simply giving a little pandering to him. I don't want to take anything away from him either, but I think his value
Well,
is
who
more
would you
in his
say right
wisdom. His
now?
philosophy is better.
Who would you say right now living? Because that's what I said.
Hmm.
I didn't say the greatest of all time. I just said
No, no,
alive.
I understand that. Yeah.
Who would you say is a superior economist?
Probably someone we've never heard of.
Well, yeah, but that's like saying the greatest artist of all time nobody ever met. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's you can make the best piece of art of all time if nobody ever sees it, then it's irrelevant.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, but if you go and look at when you listen to Mr. Soul speak, and you look at all the stuff you can find on him, it's not economics related at all. It's all philosophy based, and good on him. I see what he's doing. He's taking a very highly educated and subtle approach, but it's not too dissimilar to what Tommy Sotomayor is doing. right?
Mm.
Whereas Tommy will yell and scream and cuss and do the stuff he did, or Kevin Samuels. They're trying to change culture inside of their community, so but once again, I'm not trying to take away from him. He is a really solid economist, but his approach for the past so many decades has been more about trying to help the black community, and I commend him for that. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't hear him. You don't go watch a Thomas Sowell video about him talking about economics. That's not what you.
I
That's not
would.
what
I
happens.
have multiple
Well,
times.
me too. But you
He,
know
I
what
mean,
I mean.
he trained with the greatest minds in that field, at least in the last 100 years. Um, there's no one else who has a direct line straight to Rothbard and Mises at that level than him.
Well, that has a
Um,
free hand anyway. And
yeah.
and I have heard him say, and this is interesting since we're talking about his economic comments. Because of his blackness, he had difficulty coming in, and he'll admit that. But on the back end of it, he doesn't get as much pressure as the white economist would get because he's black, which gives him more
Yeah.
freedom. So that is interesting. He is kind of a free agent in that way, and that's cool, actually. But I don't want to knock on him. He's awesome. I love him. Because he really he's very intelligent man, and he's very reasonable man. He understands that yes,
Mhm.
racism is real. Of course it is. But it's not an excuse.
Well, it's irrelevant. Uh,
It can be. Yeah.
there's there is literally nothing in America right now that is stopping anybody who wants to do it, other than their own ability. There are obviously things that can get in the way, and there's obviously institutional problems, but they have absolutely nothing to do with skin color. They have to do with class. America is a stratified system. It has been for a very long time, probably since forever, pretty much.
And it will be.
And
It
that stratification is completely normal in a pseudo, well, we don't really have a capitalist system, but one that purports itself to be. But even in a capitalist system, that's perfectly normal because hierarchies are natural, and every organism on Earth has them. Humans are no different, and ours are typically done. If we don't do them with violence, which we don't anymore, not usually, they're done with competence and meritocracy. And if you're an incredibly competent person, most likely, if you want to, you're going to make lots of money or get lots of clout, right? Like, I don't think
right.
Thomas Sowell's made tons of money, but he's got all kinds of clout.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not.
and
I'm sure he's not struggling, but
and
he's not, a billionaire.
no, and he's but he's also not a token. And
Yeah.
I would love someone to accuse him of that. I would love to see him mad. Wouldn't it be cool to see Thomas Sowell mad? It would be
I've seen
cool,
it.
dude.
If you get on YouTube, you can find his debates with Marxists and things from like the 70s and 80s.
When he's younger, yeah,
Boy,
yeah,
oh boy,
yeah.
that's not a place you want to be sitting in those crosshairs.
Well, speaking of tokens, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes, there
Yeah.
you go. There's a great example.
Well, here's the thing that I love about this token, because this is exactly what he is. This is exactly what he is, and I'm not being flippant either. Because you go listen to, I know he rarely talks about science, even though he does talk about science. He's like he's kind of like an Einstein or a Gandhi. He's a poster child, right?
Yeah.
And but if you actually there's a couple of lectures, or not lectures, I don't know, dissertations or presentations that you can see from Neil deGrasse Tyson. They're actually on physics. Oh, wow. He, it's rare he does it, astrophysics in particular, and you can go watch it. And now I would definitely be classified as an amateur astrophysicist,
Hmm.
without question, and for good reason. And I know he's up his own ass. That's not good, dude. When a
Oh,
layman knows you're up your,
he's also a blatant plagiarist. He's been caught many, 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 many times
that is true.
plagiarizing things.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, I don't really care about plagiarism personally, especially in science, because I think that's just petty. However, as long as you're honest about it.
Yeah.
If you just straight up say, "Yeah, I got this from over here," then who cares? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
When it shows a level of dishonesty. if you don't do it. Otherwise, I don't care like on the function of it.
Right.
Just like, a lot of people get all up in their ass about a comedian stealing jokes. Well, yeah, why wouldn't he if it's funny? I don't have any problem with that. I understand why they have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Right. I understand why they have a problem with it because, it's how they make their money. But I don't personally have a problem with it. So it's not so much that he's a plagiarist that bugs me. It's that he's a hypocrite. He lies about it. He deflects from it. Just admit it. Just like, yeah, I got it from whoever.
Yeah, and
right?
that's
Whoever
why
it was.
I throw the word token around because we're all plagiarists in a way because you can't know anything that you haven't learned already. Human brain doesn't work
That's
like
right.
that. We don't go from A to C. I know there's a lot of things that talk about that. Humans don't do that. We need a linear line. That's how our brain works. So we're all
Yes.
plagiarists in a way. But that's not my problem with him, really. The thing that irritates me is in the astrophysics, particular, because that's what he is. In that field, there are plenty of diverse minorities that know their shit, right, and are also quite
Mhm.
personable. To kind of fill that role as the poster child to the kids and the mundanes, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
and
just
that's fine.
irritating, and it's fine. I don't have any problem with that at all.
Yeah.
It's good. You're bridging a gap, is what you're doing.
Right.
It's not a problem. Why can't you get one who actually is good at what they do? That's the problem.
Here. Let me find you one. I'll find you one. You probably already heard of her. It's actually a female too, of all things. Chester, are you kidding? A female?
There are some
Wait a
good ones,
minute.
yeah.
That's not supposed to happen. Hang on. I'll look for it. I know I have her on here somewhere. But no, there's a couple out here who have been making like YouTube videos who are.
Yeah.
They're not him, right? He's very charismatic. He's a natural speaker. He's fluent.
That's true.
He has a very nice cadence, and his voice sounds well.
And he has a likable face,
Yeah, and he seems like a genuinely likable guy. So they're not that, but they're still getting quite a big following because they're incredibly intelligent, like scary smart. One of those type of people. Like I'm a pretty smart guy. You're a pretty smart guy, but we probably both have met people who are scary smart.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like just
absolutely.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
And that's what these people are. And there's a couple of them making YouTube videos now. What was that, baby?
Yeah, no, you're right, Brett. There are at least 2 Guptas that I know of. Yeah, one of the actually I know several, and one of them is a female as well. But India's got a lot of Guptas. I think it's their Smith. Yeah, no, there's plenty of people in physics from all over the world. As particularly astrophysics, it's very popular. It's fun. It's one of the more fun physics, I think. Let's see, he's plagiarizing more than Carlos Mencia. Oh, okay. Yeah,
that was the comedian I was referencing.
Yeah.
People get all up in their feelings because he takes jokes. I'm like, listen, guys, I get that. I understand why you're upset. But if he's doing it better than you,
yeah, fair enough.
Kind of your own problem.
Yeah, I understand their anger. It is their livelihood. But anyway, I don't want to get caught up in it. It's just, I don't know. Things are so haphazard and cheaply done and done without thought or love. There's no gentle touch and the feel of this is something important to me. Everything in the world is just kind of get that one, slap it on there, throw it out. Right? It's so
right.
It's so dirty and foul.
Industrial.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a big problem. I tend to agree in a way with the old Unabomber. In one of his writings, he said something to the effect of the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he's totally wrong. I think obviously there's been great wonders because of it, but we've lost something, I think. There's a reason we haven't had a Mozart, or somebody like that, a Beethoven. There just hasn't been an artist like
what about
that in a while.
Warhol?
Oh, jeez, get out of here. I don't know. It could have nothing to do with anything, but something tells me that the more we industrialize, the less we lose what spiritual people would call our spirit, and that is the thing that makes us creative and ingenious. Well, allows us to create great things.
I think the other side of that though is the what we were just talking about, the engine, the machine
Yeah.
that throws everything out and plasts it up on the wall as a poster, because there are a lot of creative people, but they don't actually get any attention.
Hmm.
And I think it's the commercialization, and this micromanagement and control that the whatever elite group is trying to have over whatever situation. Because that's something you got to understand. We covered offhand made that comment about the elite. It's not one group. There
Correct.
are many, right?
Yeah.
And occasionally they do
All over
work
the world.
together, but in general, there's many
Well,
of
that's
them,
what these
right?
conferences are for, right? They're the rival parties coming to the table to have a
Yeah,
conversation.
negotiations. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really all it is. Um, and the problem is, though, it does seem like the more nefarious version of them. Because I think there is a very I don't think Elon Musk is nefarious, right? He's allegedly the richest man in the world, and I don't think he. I think he is sincere when he says things like he does care about humanity, he loves humanity, and he's trying to do some things that some I don't agree with, some I do agree with, but I don't. His motive, I think, is pure.
He's a
Whereas some of
nerd
these
playing with a
people,
new toy, dude.
yes,
That's what he
some of the
wants.
and nerds are the ones who have made everything awesome.
Sure.
Some of these people
They are the chosen
aren't.
race.
They aren't. Yes, they aren't. They aren't quite as benevolent, and
No, no.
they want power and control.
Yeah.
That's all they
Well,
care about.
well, I think the reason I said this because a lot of people have this idea of this shadow elite that runs the entire planet. It's not
Yeah.
that simple.
No,
The Bilderberg Group, which is
that would be
ultimately
easy,
it would be, yeah,
actually.
and we wouldn't be
Yeah.
having these questions. But the Bilderberg Group, particularly, which is basically the Rothschild banking group, that's their group. They
Right.
certainly are probably the richest and have the biggest
Oh yeah.
influence. But like I
Hmm.
said, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these groups across the planet, and they don't always work together so smoothly. It's not that unified. The conspiracy theory that their elites rule our life. Once again, all conspiracy theories have their kernel of truth, but it's not. That's not true. But the truth is, yes, there are elites that rule your life, but it's where are you living? It will change
Right.
what group that is, or at least trying to control your life for their own benefits. And sometimes they believe they're actually doing it for the betterment of humanity. The Bilderberg Group, for instance, this is the one that gets talked about a lot in the West because I mean the Rothschild influence is just enormous, right?
Hmm.
And their thinking is the one that disturbs so many people and therefore ends up on so many YouTube channel shows, because they really just want to reduce humanity down to half a million or a few million. That their goal is to reduce humanity down because they think it's only manageable at that size. So you have a group here that you have to ask the question, okay, how are you going to do that? How are you going to take us from 8 billion people down to half a million? How you going to do that? Right? That's the scary thing. And they're the ones that always get on the conspiracy theory channels, right?
Right.
And they're but they think that's what's best for humanity. They think that that's how humanity goes into the future successfully. Now I
Right.
don't understand that thinking. Why don't we go into the trillions and start getting on other planets and therefore secure our future forever? You know,
Yes.
this is
I say it
the
all the time,
Rothschilds get a lot
Chester.
more attention than they should really.
I've said it here. I think humanity's destiny is in the stars. I agree with
Probably.
Elon Musk there that whatever we are, even if we're just random chance, well, that random you can't take it away. If we're all stardust, then how do we not belong up there in the
Oh,
stars?
sure, but just
And
keep in
if we're
mind.
not,
Oh, go
if
ahead.
someone created us, then why would that being create this wonderful, amazing universe and not want us to go explore it?
Right, and Elon just wants to have sex on Mars, dude.
Hey, so did Captain Kirk.
So
That's
did
all I'm
Captain
saying.
Kirk. That's right. But hey, we have the Bad Mike 3 in here. So it's a great show, guys. Well, thank you. We're just sitting here chatting, see if anybody
Hey,
wants to
Mike.
join us, and we'll get into what stories I've got. But the interesting thing that comes up with that question, since you brought Christianity in, well, the Abrahamic religions into it.
Yep.
Here's a question that I doubt you ever hear asked in church anywhere.
Uh-oh.
Um, we know that the universe is full of life-giving planets.
Yep.
We know that we've identified chemically there are many, many planets that have life on them. Now, they won't announce that because they can't visually see it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's technically unofficial. But we've seen many, many planets that are giving off chemical readings that are that of life. Right. And we don't know what kind of life, but it's certainly life. And we found over the so many decades here that life is actually easy. It's not
Mm-hmm.
hard or unique or difficult. The system of the universe just seems to want to naturally build it. Okay, so here's the
It's a
question.
beautiful engine.
It seems to be. Seeing as we are one planet out of
Who
quadrillions,
knows?
who knows,
Right.
right? And that has life on it, and therefore potentially sentient life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And seeing as the more we learn about genetics, most sentient life would end up looking very similar to us. So Star Trek was right. Go figure.
Right.
But here's the thing: if that's true, then why do you not focus on that idea if you're a Christian or a Muslim or what have you or a Jew?
Mm-hmm.
Because they all look at themselves as being the center of reality, right? It's all right
Sure.
here. But if now that we know is true, and therefore you say God made it, so okay, a creator's behind it, fine, I have no problem with that. Then why wouldn't you look at yourself as how you compare to the bigger picture, right?
I can
And,
even take that to a biblical place for you. The Bible repeatedly talks about the host of heaven.
you know,
Now, we don't know what that is, really. We know that they exist, according to the Bible, and that they are in heaven with God. But we don't know what they are. They're not angels and they're not men. So, what are they?
well, there's a
They're
lot of
some
them, and
form of
they're in
living
space.
entity. Yeah, and there is who knows how many, and they're either in space or from space. So, I don't see how that question it is weird to me. There's a lot of Christians who I've known who will just straight tell you, no, there's no aliens. No, we're the only ones. God made the
Oh,
universe
sure.
for us.
And the
And
devil
I'm
put
like,
dinosaurs in the ground to trick us.
yeah. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? God didn't say that. At no point did God say this is all for you. No, he didn't say that. In fact, he said most of it's for him. So, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no,
Um,
you're getting into the weeds now because there's a lot of things they say and do that are the opposite of what's in the book, right in their hand, right in their
mm-hmm,
hand. Here's a simple one that always got me. It's very clear, very clear throughout the entire book that uh, you should not have more wives than you can maintain, than you can
mm-hmm,
afford. But a priest should only have one because they have duties, they have responsibilities of people. So a priest should only have one wife, and they should not drink of the vine, meaning they shouldn't drink alcohol. Look how screwed
right.
up we are. The Catholics don't have any wives, and they drink like fish. The priests, right? And it's like like for instance, I don't really care about this, but like polygamy, for instance. Why is this some big illegal thing? Your book that you're holding right in front of you says you should do that. I
Yep.
don't
Well,
understand.
not only that, the man who's considered theologically, besides Jesus himself, to be the wisest man to ever live, had untold number of wives. Solomon.
Solomon, yeah, yeah.
Uh, he had bunches and bunches and bunches, and God didn't condemn him for it. So I know where it comes from. It comes actually from Jesus, because I think it's in Matthew. I'm really bad at remembering exact locations of passages, but I'm pretty sure it's in Matthew where he lays that out, where he lays out the idea that the intended design was one man and one woman. But that doesn't mean that deviation is wrong. He never said that was evil or wicked or
No,
whatever.
but the whole
Some
book
people have
talks about
interpreted
it.
that. Yeah, exactly. Some people have interpreted that as that's what Jesus meant, but I think you get in the weeds there because
Yeah,
Jesus was
well,
pretty.
true, but
He was pretty. He was pretty like precise when it came to what was wrong and what was right. Right. He just
that's
straight
true.
told you, don't do
Well,
this, don't do that, do this, do that.
I
The
was just
ambiguity, I think, is in people's minds.
It is, and that's my point. That they don't follow the book that's in their hand is my point.
Yep.
And they're not the only ones. But to give an example of what I was saying earlier with the genetic, because I follow very closely anthrogenetics. It's one of my things, especially Rh negative stuff. I'm actually pretty good at that. And but here's the thing: if I were to ask you a question, to kind of go with what we're saying here, throughout history, in the genetic information we're getting, what percentage of men have made babies?
Oh, it's small.
It
I don't know the
is.
exact number, but it's not anywhere near what you would think, especially with
No,
modern sensibilities.
no,
It's real small.
it's under 30%.
Yeah. Yeah, most men just didn't get it. They
So
didn't
what
get none.
so what does that tell you though? Because the percentage of women who have had babies is way higher, by the way. It's the reason that it isn't 100% is because women die, right? People die.
Well, here's what it tells me, Chester. Capitalism was the best thing to ever happen to men.
They give them
Because one of the main
opportunities,
reasons,
didn't it? Yeah.
exactly, it gave us the opportunity to compete. Because
Yeah.
back in the day, if you weren't strong or
Rich.
rich by birth, well, you were sorry. You ain't getting. You're
Yeah,
probably out of luck,
yeah.
buddy.
You're out of luck. Yeah. But yeah, no, it shows you very clearly that polygamy was the norm, by far the norm. Yeah. So, hey, Grimlock.
And even to this day, rich men, wealthy men, well-to-do men, like you live in Asia,
Oh,
they
yeah.
got side stuff all the time.
It's actually
All the
expected.
time.
It's expected.
Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah. The Asian women are just don't put it in their face. Don't embarrass them is really it. But yeah,
Right.
no, it's odd for me being an American, 1-to-1, an American, to come over here and find that realization. Because the problem is, I'm really just not interested, Thundero.
You've already sown your wild oats.
I
you're saying.
did. I had plenty of fun. I played around with plenty of girls. I had fun, and I found my partner, and more forward I went. I'm just really. It sounds tiring, dude.
Yeah.
I'm already tired. I'm always tired. I don't need that headache, dude. I love women, but goddamn, dude.
Don't get me wrong. I love my wife. I would literally lay down in the street and die for her if
Sure,
I had to.
that's your job.
But I don't want to.
No, God, no.
Not really. I mean, I'll
No.
make jokes like, yeah, oh yeah, I'm going to get me a harem.
So, I give it to the Asian dudes because, it's almost like a responsibility over here, man. Shit, that's a lot of work. And it isn't
Yeah.
even a sex thing. It's funny to me with people these days, they're so overly sexed these days, right? Everything's about sex, sex,
Yep.
sex. But sex is the easiest thing you can do. It's like it's a no-brainer. Literally, you could shut your brain off. Your body knows what to do. It's the easiest
Figure
damn
it out.
thing. That is the
Yep.
least complicated thing about a relationship. Oh my God, dude! But their
Well, it
whole
should
lives are. It should. Well, it just is though. But their whole lives are built around it. It's like, how shallow are you, dude?
Yep.
I mean,
No, I think it's starting to correct. I think, personally, a lot of this disparate gender sexuality stuff is our biology, is our deep psyche correcting that. Because my generation and your generation, the amount of sex that people are having comparatively, like between our generations, was dropped like 30%, and then my generation to the next generation is way more than that. Like they're barely having sex. So I
Yeah.
think it's like correcting. I think this is like a corrective mechanism of some description in our
Right.
in our
Well,
genes or whatever, and it's just
women
nature
are
is
having
healing.
a lot of sex though. They just the
It's
amount of
not
men
as much as it used to be, man.
Well, maybe
even
not, but
females,
the amount
even
of men
females,
involved
like
is reduced. Yeah.
Gen X was the last really, really, really sexed
Yeah, true. The 80s was like that. But
generation.
I don't know that we were right though. Now that I'm older, I don't know that we were right. And I say that simply because we've come to an understanding now, because psychology is kind of, I don't know, it's like being a comic book professional. But
That was perfect. That was the best one you've ever done in your whole life, I think. Oh, that was so good. Because I know exactly what you mean. Go on.
yeah, okay. But thank you. But we've started to understand a few things, and one of those things is the fact that and it makes sense if you think about it historically or anthropologically. The male mind has a chemical that allows us to go from monogamy to polygamy and back. We have
Yeah.
an ability to deal with that because one of the really good things about humans is, and I imagine this is true about a lot of the animals that survive today. We're very versatile and we can adapt. We're really good at that. But our ability to adapt quickly and to things is also limiting, right? And
Mhm.
if you adapt yourself to being in multiple relationships all the time, well then you've kind of locked yourself out. You've reprogrammed yourself, and unprogramming yourself is very difficult. But you've reprogrammed yourself to be polygamous, meaning you're always with other people. Now men, we
Right.
have this kind of chemical that lets us deprogram ourselves. How handy. And if you think about it, historically, or even just going back to a more primitive state anthropologically, it makes sense that that's the case. Women don't have this, dude. They just don't have it. So the only way a woman can go from being, excessively amorous, or let's use a more colloquial term, slutty, to being monogamous with one man, they have to do that by sheer will, right? And there's some women that can do it, sure, but most cannot. So this is a real big problem that we didn't know about that we know now. So I would say that we Gen Xers probably didn't really follow the best path, and it explains why we have so much divorce, so much dysfunction, because these women, they can't focus themselves down to being what they should be, right?
Well, you say that, and it's the stats play it out because the number
Yeah,
one
they do.
driver of divorce is basically the
Bored.
woman got bored.
Yep.
She's just bored of you.
Hmm.
You could be a perfectly fine dude. You bought her a house. You took care. You raised the kids with her. You
Yep.
great guy all around,
Yep.
and she's just bored. I want to
Nearly
go
eighty
experience
percent.
life while I'm still young.
Yeah.
What?
Nearly 80%.
What?
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yep.
Wild Food says, "Hey Chester, did you hear about Gary Shipman's channel getting taken down after being hacked to run Bitcoin videos? He's publishing on his Ship's Log channel until YouTube gets it back up." Uh, you know, Wild Food. I love Gary Shipman. He is a good man. Yeah, end of
Yep.
conversation. He's a good man. The
That's
problem
right.
is, good men get taken advantage of, dude.
That's right. That's what
And
pisses me off.
yeah, it
Yeah.
does piss me off too. And Gary is he's a very good, trusting man, and he's been hit several times. The whole NFT debacle and other things like that. It's just, and he's an older gentleman, so he's not really as hip with this technology as others. And I'm not either, but at least I can stay on top of it, but he's less so. And I unfortunately, I think those things are continually happening because he's not like me. I'll cut your fucking heart out, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
I prefer to just be left alone because I've. Let's just say I know what buttons to push to ruin someone's day, and I know what buttons to push to
Sure.
ruin someone's a lot
And
longer than their day.
that's normal. That's how it
Yeah,
is, especially with men. We're constantly chiding each other. It's just part our
yeah.
way of, showing love.
But when you
But
get a genuinely kind soul,
yeah.
man, woman, or child, doesn't matter, but especially an older one or a younger one, like a child or an older man, especially older, a lot older than me,
Yeah.
I got no time for people who press those buttons on those
Yeah,
people.
no, it
Those,
pisses me
that's
off.
my enemy. People
Yeah.
like that are my enemy
Because
because you're scum.
he is a very good man,
Yeah.
and that's just the reality of it. But it's kind of how I feel that if Mister Rogers survived into this age, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm going to put Gary on that platform. He is, but it just as an example.
Same
Im-
temperament.
yeah, yeah, same temperament. But
Yeah.
imagine. Mr. Rogers in this modern time, my goodness gracious, dude. You
Oh,
know,
he would be broken. They would have broke him by now. They
and I'd have to murder people.
Bob
See
Ross
what
too.
they
They
do.
would have broke Bob down,
Yeah.
and it would
Well,
have
he's
been
a little bit
tragic.
more human, though. I mean, frickin'
Yeah,
Rogers was a living saint, dude. But
he was a saint of a man.
I watched this movie this weekend with my wife because mainly I was just reading this weekend. I had one little road trip I had to make, but it's pretty standard. But mainly, I stayed home but I watched a movie with the wife, and I saw a Tom Hanks movie I hadn't seen yet, and it was him portraying Mr. Rogers. And I
Yep.
remember seeing the interview, and he was so nervous to do that, and I get it. I get it. You're
Yeah.
dealing with a
Yeah.
real icon, right?
A
But
paragon.
yeah, the Paragon. But I felt he did
Yep.
a he they it was interesting the way they handled it, and I thought he did a really good job. You could see he was trying really hard, and good on Tom Hanks, man. I know there's some controversies that pop up about him, but the last two movies I've seen from him was that one and the Mary Poppins one where he played Walt Disney. Really heartwarming stuff, good stuff, man. And it was, I'm not I don't know how you are when it comes to welling up. Me
Yeah.
personally, it's music that gets me. Music gets me, and,
Hmm.
and it makes me want to tear up. Right? I don't know. It's
Right.
just it's hard for me to control, dude. Getting through that damn movie and controlling myself where I wasn't just freaking bawling was hard, dude. Because
Yeah.
the whole time my brain was saying, "My God, we really need that man."
Yeah.
Oh, it was rough, dude. It was rough.
He's
Uh,
one of the few people to ever exist where I have never heard a negative word about him. I've
no,
never
he
seen
was
it.
ridiculously good human.
It just didn't happen. It was just because he was just a genuine light in the world. Like he just radiated that kind of goodness all around him.
Sure.
And that is so rare in this world. That's why people like me and you, bastards, who aren't afraid of getting dirty, have to protect people like that. Have to
Yeah, no,
keep
we do. We do. Our
monsters away.
integrity
So
is one
somebody
thing,
taking
right?
advantage of Gary, that
Yeah,
gets my blood boiling a bit
no.
because Gary he's not quite Rogers level, but he's got the same heart of it.
Yeah, no,
And
no. Gary's a good guy. We
yeah,
just don't know him as well. But if you ever talk to the guy,
yeah,
he's a beautiful human. I love Gary Shipman.
he's
And
genuinely a good man.
it is, and I love seeing him every now and then. But I'm glad I distanced myself a little bit. I didn't do it intentionally, but that happened because I don't need to pollute that man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, better to stay away. But I mean, but going back to Fred Rogers, his wife I think made one of the greatest comments about him ever, and
Yep.
they kind of mentioned that a little bit in the movie, whereas she really hates the people using the word saint, right? When talking
Right.
about her husband, because if he's a saint, then it's unattainable for you. And
Yeah.
and it's good. It's a freaking genius point, right? Behind every good man, there's a
Yep.
good woman, right?
That's true.
The simple fact of the matter is, she said that he worked hard every day to be who he was. He worked at it. And even in that movie, it showed that he'd do his laps. He swam laps every day to kind of get any kind of burden or rage out of him. Sometimes he'd play the piano, we just smash the lower keys and it just kind of get that energy out of him. So the dude worked at it. He worked at it, and that is makes him even more beautiful. That
Yes.
he wasn't just some divine thing that the creator dropped on the planet, right? He worked
Right.
hard to be the great and good man he was, and what an example. And Oh my God, we need Mr. Roger. We need that kind of person. We need 1,000 of them. We need 10,000 of them, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, just imagine what
Or we
the
at
world would
least
be
need a
like.
culture that extols someone like that again, right?
Yeah,
Like the reason why we even know about him is because he became famous, not even really because he wanted to be. He just wanted to make something good for children.
yeah. You want to
And
help them
that was
understand
pretty
their
much it.
feelings, right? Yeah,
Yeah, he just
yeah,
wanted to help kids as much as he could.
yeah.
And he became obviously everybody knows Mr. Rogers. I mean, he's everybody knows his little song. He was everybody's neighbor. But we had a culture, at least we tangentially did, that wanted to elevate someone like that.
Yeah.
That wanted to elevate someone into the eyes of children
Yeah.
who was trying to be a good person. and succeeding at being
And
a good
succeeding
person.
at it. Yes, he succeeded at it. But he worked hard
We
at it.
don't have that anymore, and it's one of the reasons. Got to take this in a totally different way, but it's one of the reasons I can't stand guys like Alan Moore, because they're the type of people who killed it. They killed the hero. And once you do that, you don't get the hero back. You only get one. You only get one chance at having paragons in your society. And when you take their legs out from under them,
Yeah,
either a new one rises up or you just wallow in the muck.
sure. Well, they got paragons these days, but they have like bling bling
Ugh. Yeah,
in
like
their
George
teeth,
Floyd,
and
Saint
they
Floyd.
and they say yo 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 bitch. But Wild Food, dude, go check it out, man. Especially if you grew up with Mr. Rogers, I think you'll appreciate it. But like I said, that's a tough one to get through, man. That was a tough one. Oh, dude, because I didn't realize how much I missed Mr. Rogers, dude. It's one of those things, you just don't realize it because being the type of males that most of us are, and I know that I am not allowed to show emotion, right? I'm not allowed to become emotional, right? I have to control that. I have to be in control every second, which is why I was such a bad drug user. Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. It was wasted on me for damn sure. Yeah. But anyway, Grimlock, I've seen you here. I said hi a couple times. Are you gonna say hi?
He's a quiet man.
Yeah, but y'all was going good with the conversation, so I'm like, let me let them do their thing.
Yeah. Now you're not my age, but you're older, dude. You must have grown up with Mr. Rogers.
Oh yes,
Did he have any influence on your childhood?
I think it would be impossible for anybody in our age groups who grew up watching that show to say it didn't,
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
he was because like you said, he was that good guy. He was that guy you could always go and turn on, whether it was a new episode, which was really wild to think that when I was a kid, we was getting new episodes of Mister Rogers all the way up until like 2001. That
Yep.
he was on the air that long,
Syndication, at least. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
and where not only just being nice, but also showing you things. He would have those episodes where he would take you to some factory
Yeah.
where they was making something. You could see something being made.
Sure. Yeah.
You could he would bring different people on. You would see different people. And you know diversity without having to say it. Just be like, oh, here's this guy, and you can obviously see that it's a black person
Well, it's
or
just
a
an
Latino
American, right?
person.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
an American. Yeah. But he talked about heavy
and
stuff
usually,
too, right? He talked about
yes.
violence and divorce and things. He talked about these things, and I love the idea of it, Grimlock, because these days, like I give you an example, it was almost as if the universe had reached out and spoke to me. Okay, it was almost
Yeah.
like an epiphany. After I was done with that, watching that and all emotional, it popped up and it showed new releases on the Netflix, right? And
Yeah.
and in that new release line, they had a bunch of kid stuff, and I was terrified to even look at it because you know how they are these days with Netflix. But they had this thing called Blippy, and it had this little Asian guy all colored up, and I was like, all right, well, let me go check it out here for a second. Brain dead, dumbass shit. I don't understand why they think, and I've seen that as a teacher over here as well. Especially when we get these foreigners up in here. They think they have to talk to these kids like they're two. They're not two, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at 5, 6, 7, 8 year olds really in that range. Stop talking to them like they only understand 3 words. Stop it. Like I would not allow Grimlock. I would not allow my children to watch Barney. Because no, serious heart attack, dude. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that's freaking brain rot, dude. And I disallowed it in my house. I literally disallowed it in my house. I mean, and that's another thing I miss about the older content. They weren't afraid to speak to children. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's really unfortunate how that is. It's like, and it kind of makes like what's going on with kids these days even more recently appalling, because it's like, on one hand you talk to them as though they're completely incapable of understanding anything, but on the other hand you turn right around and go, oh, it's okay to talk to them about sex. And it's like, really?
Yeah, it's weird,
That's
right? Then they go there. You're right. Then they go there. It's like, what? What? You're sitting here saying, oh, the color's red and yellow and blue. Blue, red, and blue. I mean, that's what that Blippy guy does. It reminded me a
because
little
I
bit
mean,
of Steve as well from Blue's Clues. There's another dude who had a kids show that had really good content, but he just talked to him. Sure, he didn't use, gigantic scientific words, but he was just talking to the kids, man.
well, it's like I said, if people go back, right, like if you look at a lot of those shows, like a lot of the cartoons from back then, like we've talked about Batman the animated series, but also X-Men, Spider-Man, and I know some
Sure.
people don't believe this, but going back as an adult and watching it, and watched a lot of the things that slipped by me as a kid, even Transformers, Thundercats, and He-Man, I'm like, wow,
Well, because they always
they
had a moral, right? They were always teaching, don't do this, kids, or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They don't do that anymore.
And
What they
and
do
I
teach
know we're not
kids
supposed
is,
to
yeah,
bring this one up because of who created it, but Fat Albert.
yeah. Fat Albert was great. I love Fat Albert. Like the Cosby Show too. Yeah,
I'm gonna be
and
honest, I always thought Fat Albert was the best thing Cosby.
say that
Fan
again.
of the Cosby Show. I always thought Fat Albert was the best thing Cosby ever did. I never was a fan of the Cosby Show.
Uh, well, I love Fat Albert when I was a kid, though. I mean, Fat Albert, Scooby Doo, all that stuff was great. I enjoyed it. And Fat Albert
Yeah,
had morals that they were teaching all the time. Yeah. And the thing with Bill
yeah,
Cosby, I know, for some reason he's an unmentionable these days, but there's a reason they let him out of jail because he was railroader dude. I mean,
oh yeah,
fine, the dude slept with a lot of women. Okay, fine, he's a man. But what did he do? He went to parties and he had drugs, and the girl's like, "Hey, give me some drugs," and now he's guilty of something. He didn't roofie
he
anybody, right? That's not what he did.
no,
They were
he was railroaded, and
he was
once
yeah,
again,
No,
Razor Fist did an excellent video outlining all of that.
he
If
did.
people have not
That's true.
seen that, I would suggest people watch it, because for a guy who's not a lawyer, Razor Fist does a pretty good job of breaking that shit down.
Oddly eloquent and highly intelligent.
Yeah,
Razorfish, yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Um,
Him and
uh,
his music breakdowns, I like those too.
oh, I love his metal mythoses. Those are great. Yeah.
Yes.
But
they
very,
literally with Cosby, they literally took him saying in a deposition, because they asked him. He said, "Well, what did you buy those drugs for?" I said, "Well, he bought them. I bought them so we could take them and then have sex." They took that to rape. What?
No.
That's not the same thing.
no, it's not. And trust me,
That's like saying, "I bought some beer. What'd you buy the beer for?" "Well, we were going to drink and then have sex." You raped her. Whoa! What? Calm down.
and I can attest. I can attest. But I'm going to go put some hot water here on in a second. But just before I do that, I was just kind of flipping through the YouTube stuff, looking for something interesting. And Tower, I think you probably should drop out and come back in because we can't hear you, dude.
No,
But
I'm just muted.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. You are roboting a little bit. But anyway, I found this. Now, I'm not really that interested in the MGTOW stuff or the whatever those men's rights movements. I'm not against
Yep.
them. Men should certainly have a place where they can talk, and I understand why it's happening. I think it's sad. I think it's a problem that needs to be fixed, et cetera, et cetera. It's not really my thing, but occasionally I'll watch different stuff just to kind of get a feel where, it's more like an anthropological dive for me to kind of see what's going on. But I saw this one site that I thought I have to mention it. I just got to mention it because it's called Tribe of Men or Tribes of Men.
Hmm.
And it was really, really interesting because you had this guy. who's very good looking. I'd say he's probably Latino. A very good looking fella. He clearly has no trouble with women, but he's looking at it very logically and analytically. And what's going on? What's the problem? And some things he agrees with, some things he blames men for. He's very honest. His view
Yeah.
on it. It's kind of like I would take, but many of his videos, I didn't watch them all. I just kind of checked a few of them. He has this girl on, and she looks like she's of some Asian descent. It's not his girlfriend. They're not in. I don't know where she comes from, but it's not his girlfriend. It's not his wife. And they bring her on, and here's the thing: she will have an agreeing or disagreeing opinion to him, but they will sit
Yeah.
there and they'll talk about it. They'll discuss it. He'll make a good point. She'll say, She'll make a good point. He'll be like, oh, right. A
Mhm.
civil conversation. No one gets angry. And in the end, they both made good points and they both have altered their opinions because, oh, yeah, you're right about that. Right. What an absolutely gorgeous conversation going on between that dude and that girl, as it should be. That's how it should be. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It struck me because I don't really, like I said, I don't really care about the conversation per se, beyond its anthropological, insinuations. But it struck me. That's how bad communication has gotten. That struck me as like, what a wonderful civil conversation going on between these two people, man. And these are young people too, right? And I was like, man,
Yeah.
we need more of that. Go check it out. I think it's Tribe or Tribes of Men. I'm going to put some hot water on though. I'll be back in a minute.
Hot
Cool.
water. Oh, you left us here with nothing to talk about. What are we going to talk about?
How are you fellas doing?
I'm swell.
Doing
How
all
is
right.
Tower?
Huh?
How is Tower?
Howard's Tower.
Oh, I had a very good day. Yesterday though was probably one of the best better days of my life.
Cool. What happened?
I work at the railroad with giant overhead gantry cranes, like some of the largest cranes in America other than the port cranes.
Ah.
And one of the operators invited me up there, one of my buddies, and he's like, "Well, sit down in the seat." And I got to I took 2 cargo containers off of a train and threw them in a stack. But I've never got to operate a machine, and the coincidence is I operated the first machine I ever operated. And take in mind, in this yard we have everything from $200,000 forklifts to the crane I was in was a $7 million German crane that runs on a monorail. And what made it even better is that it's actually my dad's crane at that, because my dad works there and he's always in crane 5. So, and I was on second shift. He's like, "Yeah, come up here." Got to take 2 boxes off the crane. It was funny. I
Nice.
went down in my truck and I was passing the stacks and I looked at the box like, I did that. Yeah.
Huh?
Nice. Good job.
You ever played a game of
job, dude.
Claw?
Yeah, like with the
you
claw
ever-
machines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you
course.
played Xbox?
Of course.
You can almost operate a crane, like a port crane. I'm not even joking here. It's like 2 joysticks. Like if you took an Xbox controller and made it bigger, you could operate that crane with all the buttons on the controller
Nice.
without any issues. It's funny. I don't even want to say sad. It's just weird because you think something like that would be really hard and complicated, and then you're
Right.
actually up there and it's like, I can't even make this up either. You have your 2 joysticks, and on top of each joystick you have 4 buttons, and it's literally red, yellow, blue, green, red, yellow, blue, green. And then there's little buttons on the side that are for your horn and shit.
What are you
Interesting.
But-
talking about, Tower?
We were talking about
Crane.
cranes.
Oh,
Cranes.
Talking about cranes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to operate a $7 million crane yesterday.
You got what?
I got to I operated a $7 million cargo gantry crane yesterday.
Ooh, that does sound fun. Yeah, the
Yeah.
only cranes I've ever operated are the truck-based one, the truck-mounted ones.
nice. I was 8 stories in the air in a glass box.
Yeah, I know, dude. That's
Picking
cool.
up.
That is cool.
Yeah,
Heavy equipment
yeah.
is cool. Yeah. I
Oh,
haven't been able to do many big things though. I've only done, like I said, little truck cranes. I've done the little forklifts, of course. The smaller backhoes. I haven't been able to
yeah,
do big
yeah.
stuff.
Where me and GOP worked, the smallest forklift that we have is rated for like at I think 15 tons,
Mhm.
and that's the smallest one. It's a dually front tire.
Yeah.
We have everything we have is ultra heavy equipment, so I can't complain. Oh, by the way,
Hey, that's
Chester, I was
good.
gonna say sorry about on Tuesday passing out.
That's okay, but you literally did pass out. Just understand that
No,
you are amongst males, and we have written that down. Yeah.
how many people have done that?
No, just you.
Just me.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight up. We were in the hallway talking to Robo Bitch, and next thing I know, you were talking about Firefox.
Yeah, that's all right, dude. Yeah, no big deal. We were at the end anyway, wrapping it down. I was just actually I was kind of in full dialogue because we had like 10 minutes, so I was just trying to end the session, really.
Yeah, I
You know,
gotta go back and rewatch that last 10 seconds. But GOP broke it down for me. But
yeah, no, I like where the campaign's going. We're having fun with it for sure.
I do too.
Yeah. Now my coffee's boiling, so when the water boils, I'll have my coffee and we'll get into it. But um, uh, where did Thundero go, Grimlock?
I don't
Canada.
know.
Don't know. Tower.
I'm
Just,
here.
oh, you're here.
I was muted because I was letting out a cat who decided that it was time for this particular cat to just start screaming, as cats do.
They do.
So
It's called. We have a word for it. It's called a caterwaul.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was caterwauling like it was her job.
You know.
What are you making? You making some coffee? What do you got going on in there, Chester? And I had to open my door because it's a million freaking degrees.
Oh well, I have a fan on me. Yeah, I'm just making some coffee. I had some from earlier because I was working, but when I sat down here to start the show, it was cold. I drank it anyway, but I just want some hot coffee. I don't know, but that's okay. But interesting initial conversations. We often kind of ramble along here, and it's fun. I do like it. But Elrod says now. I'm going to
Oh
preface
boy.
this going in with hope. So here we go. Elrod says there are millions of good people, but we are to bust worshiping and idolizing idiots to see them. I
think
don't
you
know
meant
what
busy.
we are too busy worshiping and idolizing idiots to see them. That is fair. That does happen, Elrod. That is true. Um, we do idolize the wrong people, and that's something that's been going on a long time. But there are, of course, most people are good. Even
Yep.
if you can throw it into the idea that they're good because of fear, well, fine. That's what controls humanity anyway. But yeah, most people are pretty solid humans. It's the noisy ones on whatever political spectrum, that 20% of humanity that causes the trouble for the other 80%, and varying degrees of disgustitude. Like that new word I made?
Disgustitude.
Yeah, I think we should call that
We're gonna
there.
keep that one. We'll
Yeah.
keep that one. That's a good one. Disgustitude.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that should be official. But let me see here. Is it? Oh, it's boiling. Okay, I'm going to go get my coffee. I'll be back in a second, and then we'll
Go
get on.
get your coffee. Go get your coffee.
I don't want to go too off topic, but if you guys go to General, I posted some photos of that machine.
Cool.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a beast. It's funny, in GTA 5, there's a mission where you have to drive one of them.
Yep. The actual funny part is when I was a younger fella, I mean, probably like 12 when that game first came out, me and my dad was sitting right there on the couch. And the second that mission started where we went to a cargo port, he immediately took the controller and he's sitting there driving like the Taylor and shit, like the side loader. And he's like sitting there like fantasizing, and I'm sitting here like, you're like, holy shit, I've been operating this for 7 years, and now I can do it in a video game. That always that's like It's like you got European truck driver, drives for 14 hours a day, gets home, loads up Eurosim 2,
Oh yeah.
Euro Trucking Sim 2. Like, I
Yeah, that
just
is
did
weird.
14 hard hours of truck driving. Now I want to play virtual truck driving for my
I
free
want to do
time.
some more.
That is
Yes,
It's
interesting.
sir.
those
Yeah.
whole games are weird to me, but to each their own, I guess.
I like
I've just
Farming
never
Simulator.
understood the
That's you get
appeal.
into 'em.
Yeah, I've never
That's like
understood the
None is
appeal.
farming
weirder
sim.
than Goat Simulator.
That is
Ghost
bizarre. That
Simulator
is
is a
bizarre.
rave.
But the truck driving sim and the farming sim and those kind of things, those are more
Yeah,
useful than goats, I would have to say. Although
yeah.
when I was going to get my coffee, I hit my knee on the corner of a low hanging end table. Boy, right in the nerve cluster. Damn.
Oh, that's a great feeling. That feels great.
Yeah,
That just makes you want to say so many pleasant things to the universe.
it
What that
does.
does.
But I don't. I suck it up. Suck it up. But
Shut it up.
I was saying in Japanese, so we
the
couldn't understand him.
I actually had that one was so bad. I actually had to put my hand on it. I had to squeeze it. I had to go. I had to do like that. That was a bad one, dude. Haven't had one of those in a while. I think that's the same spot on the knee as on the elbow. I think is what that was.
Oh man,
Yeah, well, that's all right. It's over. But those little nerve cluster hits, boy, they can sting. Anyway, let's go ahead and drop into our stuff today. You guys ready? I'm ready.
Oh yeah.
All righty. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. I kind of started over there. I didn't want to do that. So hold on a second. I'm going to adjust that. Well, no, no, I'm going to adjust that. So let me do that. Because I don't want to start there. Let's see. Let's do this. I can bring this up, and then I can do that, and then I'll go over here to the front. Okay, I do like to talk about board games and sometimes video games and stuff like that on this show, particularly just to promote it. And today I want to talk about both at the same time. Okay, now this is a game called Terraforming Mars. Now this is the kind of game I like. It's not for everybody. But I like this kind of stuff, and it's a resource management game, a board game is what it is, and that's really all you need to know about it. If you like those kind of things, you're into board gaming. This one's pretty good. It's from Stronghold Games. Stronghold Games has a lot of really good stuff, resource management games. The owner of it is a really kind of interesting fella. Stronghold Games actually. He's the kind of quintessential Italian uncle, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I think it's a pretty good game. I know it's not for everybody because a lot of people would be bored to death. But you're basically just trying to terraform Mars, and you're collecting cards and resources and trying to complete your cards. Yeah, done. What I wanted really to mention was the video game version of it, which came out in alpha the other day, a few weeks ago, and you can find it on Steam here. And let me go ahead and just let this run in the back. It's called Terraformers. It is the same people, at least some connection to them, and they have taken that board game and put it into video form. And it's really cool because I played the game, I own the game, and I enjoy it. But this right here, as you go through, it definitely has the board game feel. You're collecting cards and resources to play the cards. Same thing, right? But in this, of course, now they can add more artistic aesthetic, as you see popping up on the screen. But also, as you go along and you play the game, you can see Mars become a blue ball as you terraform it. And that's, of course, you can't get that in the game, right? Because it's a board game. So I was just really impressed with it. I thought this thing looks great, and it takes time and a lot of hard work, by the way. And that if I like that kind of stuff. Maybe you don't. I don't know what kind of gamer you are, but I just saw it and I was like, what a nice little combination. And I suggested, what are they charging for this here? Because I'm definitely going to $20. It was probably like $17.
So
$16.
imagine being so rich that people literally make video games just for you. Because this basically is for Elon Musk.
It is.
This game's for him. Everybody else can buy it if they want, but they made it for him.
He did. But but it looks really. I watched Raptor play it. Like I said, I have the board game, and I heard they had this, and I saw Raptor had done a cover of it, and I went and watched it, and it's very much like the game. It's just an enhanced version of it, a much more enhanced version of it, and that's fun. I don't know if you guys know Raptor, but those kind of survival city builder type of games, I guess he's the big boy in that genre over
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
Raptor's got some really good. You can really get a good look at the game, and that's useful, right? But I just
Mhm.
thought it was neat because we've seen a lot of board games go into the video game genre as of late, right? Some of them only
Yes.
half step, meaning your tablet is joining with the board game. You're using it at the table where you're playing it, adding multimedia aspect to it. Other things are complete translation like this, and I'm digging it. I like it. This is a type of game that is very board gamey. It's not you're not running around FPS shooting shit. You're not even building a city. It's a board game brought to computer, and the price might be a little high as I'm looking at it right there. Actually, I mean I'd pay for it, but nevertheless, I thought it would be a nice look at a board game that went video game, and I think they did a good job with it. So, and it's just an alpha release too, so there's so much more to come, but it looks good already. Anyway, you guys,
Does look
anything
cool.
anything to
Does
say
look
about
cool.
that, or?
I actually I love those type of games. Like this type of game, or like a like Banished games like
Oh
that,
yeah,
where you have to build up like that, start from very little to nothing, and just
Oh,
kind of build up a massive sprawling whatever it is, whether it's a colony or a town or
Yeah.
apparently a whole planet.
Yeah.
I've always loved those type of games. They're great when you just want to relax, or you're watching something on the other screen or whatever. Because they don't take a lot of like deep attention. They're not like Doom or something like that requires a lot of Twitch movement.
No, but it
And
takes a lot of brain power though.
yeah, but you got to think, you got to plan, you got to okay, I'm going to put this here, I'm going to put that there, that kind of situation.
You got to do the math.
But no, I really do like those type of games, so I will probably check this out eventually.
Yeah, you're not actually building anything per se. You're basically building cities rather than a city itself, and you're trying to,
Yeah.
there's many things you're trying to do. But I think it's cool. My favorite of those city builder survival types actually comes from a single creator somewhere in Europe, Serbia, I think, or Poland, maybe Poland, and it's Ostriv. What a
Ostriv?
Ostriv is freaking awesome. Yeah.
Huh.
I've never
Check
actually
that
heard of that one. I've played a lot of City Skylines though, personally.
Oh, City Skylines is
Yeah.
fun too. Yeah, great. Lots of mods for City Skylines. It's a good one. But no, I would if you like Banished, Ostriv is an
do.
improvement over it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a couple other ones too that have come out that are pretty much just Banished clones.
Oh, a lot of them.
One's
I
called
own many.
One's called Settlement Survivor or Settlement Survival or something like that, and it's a little bit more cartoony style than Banished, but it's just Banished. Like that's what it is,
Yeah.
and but they added some more features and stuff. But yeah, no, I really loved Banished. I played an unbelievable amount of that.
It's a great game.
And that was another game that was made, I think, by one or two people.
Yep.
And just put it out there on Steam, and it was a good. It's kind of like Minecraft, right? Minecraft was only made by Notch at first.
Right.
Just put it out there, and it caught on, and it had something about it that kept people playing for hours and hours on end, and that's all it takes.
Good on them, dude. Yeah, good on them.
You know what other game I'd say? Tropico, if you like the political side too.
Sure. Tropico. Yeah.
Yep.
You get to be the El Dictator.
Yes.
Tropico is good fun. There's lots of good ones. Actually, one I've been enjoying quite a bit recently. Although Ostriv is my suggestion though, because it is gorgeous and that guy's done a great job. But one I've been playing, I've played quite a bit recently, is Timberborn. Frickin' Beavertown, dude. It's awesome.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. But there's a lot of those.
Oh, Chester, I found the chick I was talking about. I'm going to say her name. Her name is Sabine Hassenfelder.
Mm-hmm.
And she has 466,000 subscribers on here.
Uh-huh.
She is an incredibly brilliant woman.
Mm-hmm.
An actual scientist, PhD in physics. and is a research fellow at Frankfurt Institute for Advanced Studies.
Oh,
And she makes YouTube videos just talking about physics and the universe
Yeah.
and explaining things like, because we've all heard that, at least as of now, most likely warp drive, right, faster than light travel is impossible. We'll never be able to do it. And she has videos explaining what that means,
Yeah.
what alternatives there could be otherwise, or what circumstances would have to happen for it to become possible.
Well, yeah.
So far, we haven't been able to do it.
That's true, but the problem with that whole line of thinking is they were going the gravity route and with light, and light is simply just a side effect of plasma. Plasma's the way to go.
Correct.
I mean, we have tracked plasma moving across freaking half the universe instantly, right? As far as what it
Speed of
the
thought.
speed it moves, the speed of thought. So that's the future. But good on her for saying that, though. But yeah,
But no,
there's a
I
lot of
would
'em.
I definitely recommend checking her out. She's not, like I said, she's not like as smooth or whatever you want to call it as a Neil deGrasse Tyson, or obviously as popular.
He's an entertainer.
But she's not doing it for entertainment. She's just trying to teach you something,
That's
basically.
cool.
Now, whether or not she's correct or not is another matter. But the way she presents it, she's very academic.
Mhm.
She doesn't dumb it down too much, and I think that's one of the reasons why she's become very popular. She has videos of all different spectrums because physics is kind of a big deal. So she'll get into things like climate change and all this other stuff too, where physics obviously is a main factor in these things. So I recommend her. I check out her videos every now and again. She has a whole bunch of different topics, from everything from, like I said, faster than light travel to nuclear energy to fusion energy to just everything. Pretty much, if there's a science about it, she's probably made a video on it.
There you go. Awesome. There's a lot of them, actually, that you can get good information, and you should. Physics is fun. But anyway, ready? We're going to move on here.
Let's do
Big
it.
Indie Pitch Gamescom, 3rd place. Aw. But I thought it looked cool. But no, Brett, this is not a board game made into a PC or tablet version. There are plenty of those. No, this is something, again, they took the idea and they made a video game and they took it much further. This is not that, but which I think is better, actually. But anyway, let's move on here to real stuff. Boom. Oh my God.
Report claims Warner Brothers Discovery and David Zaslav, I love that name, are unhappy with J.J. Abrams' slow progress with Bad Robots DC Ventures. I'm unhappy with their ventures existing. So at least we're in agreement. We're both unhappy with J.J. Abrams.
Yes. And now I put this up here because, JJ is dragging his feet in certain places, and I'm not sure why he's doing that, because he's clearly doing it intentionally. In other places, he's not dragging his feet. So I don't know what's going on with that. However, there are a bunch of stuff that they wanted to come on because he'd signed up for Justice League Dark, of course, which would be cool, and some other things, but they're just not coming along. But more importantly, what I thought was interesting about this article, beyond that, there's that Constantine guy, was that Zaslav is not afraid to even take swings at frickin' J.J. Abrams, dude.
Good.
I mean, he's fearless because JJ's got push, dude.
I think times have been so good for so long in the world, but in Hollywood specifically in this case, that a lot of these guys, they need somebody who doesn't give a shit about them to get them back in line. Because JJ he can make good stuff. He needs to be put in his lane. He needs to be put in check. A lot of these guys are like that. They can make good stuff, but they need to be put in check.
Yeah.
And their ego and their, I would say it's just outright hubris, to be honest, has gotten so unchecked, and no one will call them. Basically, everybody has the George Lucas problem from the prequels.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody would tell him, hey, that's a stupid idea. Nobody would tell him, hey, that kind of doesn't work. Because he was George Lucas. Now all these guys are treated that way, it seems. Especially like a J.J. Abrams or a Zack Snyder, which his luster fell off that rose a long time ago.
It's true.
But J.J. hasn't yet. because he has had success revitalizing franchises and things. I mean, indisputably he has. So that hasn't fallen off yet, and they obviously brought him in because they want him to do that for DC properties, and he's not performing. So you have a new boss who isn't same as the old boss by all accounts. He actually, wants to make money,
Right.
and he's in here and he's been hatchet manning left, right, and center, whatever he can hatchet man. So I don't think JJ's head's off that chopping block as much as he would like to think.
Clearly not. Yeah, clearly not. And to be honest, as with a lot of these things, I would love to see Justice League Dark. That would be fun. We know they screwed up, though. I don't have any faith in anything anymore. And that's sad about all this stuff coming out. I would love to watch all of it. It would be good fun, but nope. But you're right, Brett. That is something to keep in mind with discovering the stuff they put on. Sure, we're just kind of interested in what Zaslav is doing because this dude is just swinging for the fences with he's just cutting heads, dude. And Brett, the other thing with the early access stuff, I understand that 100%. These people with the terraformers do have a roadmap, a quite meticulously laid out one, and if they stick to it, it should be fine. But you're right, it is a problem with the early access, and they never become not early access. You're right, it has become a formula. But anyway,
and that honestly, that's Steam's fault. Steam should force them to not do that. They should just tell them, listen, you have to unpublish if you don't have an actual. You've been doing this for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever years. Some of these games, no, we're just going to pull you down until you show us something. Get ready, get it together, and then we'll put it back.
Example.
What do you say?
Yeah.
Like Ark Survival Evolved is a great example of what you just said there.
Absolutely imploded.
Well, that game hit its peak like 3 years before it became officially released. Like that, anyone who argues that game hit its top level many years before it even fully released, and after fully released, everyone who played it's like, oh, cool, it has a story now. But nobody really ever played it after that.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it is a problem. And some of them go on to do really cool things, like what is that Soviet civil city builder? It's literally set in the Soviet Union in the 70s, but it's one of the best city builders. But here's one that came out in an alpha, launch state, and they have been adding to that game the whole time, and it's freaking fantastic. If you like city builders, go play that game because it's pristinely beautiful. So you have examples of Ark is a good example of failure, and there are many others, but there are also examples of success, right?
Yep.
So,
absolutely. But it's good that it seems, now again, this is all conjecture,
sure,
but it does seem that Zaslav, there's a lot of smoke around there though, so there's some fire somewhere. That Zaslav is ringing bells out there at the very minimum.
Yeah.
And I understand that this is Discovery, and Discovery has put on a lot of really degenerate shit.
Yeah.
But that may not matter. And the reason why it may not matter is because if that was the audience they were playing to and it was getting ratings for them, and by all accounts it was, hence this happening, that why wouldn't they play that bell? Well, whereas this stuff, he seems to have a much more personal investment in DC than he does in anything else, from what we've seen, the reports we've seen.
Well,
he very much is a Superman fan and a DC fan, so we'll see.
Yeah, no, and we are keeping an eye on it. We're not saying Zaslav is the superhero of the against the woke age, but we'll see. He could be. But the odd thing with Discovery is the route that they went actually, because what most of the stuff on Discovery is basically people who enjoy watching train wrecks in progress, right? The fat people show and the dumb redneck chick in her stupid shit show, and just as a lot of this, just human failure falling down in front of you. And some people do and enjoy rubbernecking, that kind of stuff. And I think I don't know why Discovery went that way, but it's what they did. So,
it is interesting.
yeah, it is. Bad Mike says, "Look, they will employ pedos if they make money. Just tell me that the guys in charge are no longer making money, aka Bad Robot." Well, Bad Robot's taken a lot of hits. They've taken a lot of hits. Star Trek is just, people are just absolutely done with it. They're angry, and I don't blame them, especially what they did. Discovery was bad enough, but look what they did with Picard. I mean, talk about just deconstructing all the good work of the next generation.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
just
unbelievable.
oof. It's one of the reasons why I don't know if you have anything talking about it, but it's one of the reasons why Top Gun Maverick is so amazing because it does none of that. There is none of this deconstruction. There's none of this. We have to make the old guy look like crap to make the new guys look good.
Mhm.
There's none of that, and it's
Yeah, it's just a
refreshing.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
It's just a movie about the same character, and that character isn't a complete and totally different person from who he was before.
no.
Crazy, right? You can actually do that, Chester. That's allowed.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, because Jenny's my age and she's looking good, dude. She is. She's kept herself
Yes.
pretty healthy. But the good thing about her is, of course, the family's very proud. Obviously, been proud for a very long time of her accomplishments. But one of the things she did, and it goes to play what you're talking about with Maverick just being a normal movie, right? It's actually sounds like it's a pretty good sequel. But one of the things she did is different from a lot of Hollywood people. Is that yeah, she's a Hollywood star, she's made a lot of stuff, got an Oscar, I think, but she also got married long time ago, has 3 kids, she's a
Yep.
mom, normal person, right?
Yep.
I mean, she's both things, right? She's not, like we covered Laura Dern and her insanity last week.
Oh God, yeah.
But
Completely lost her mind.
yeah, she's just one of those toxic Hollywood females. But
Yeah.
you have an example because she's 54, and Jenny is, was she a year older than me, same age as me, something like that. We're about
Right around there.
around the same age. So she's close to that. But because she's led kind of a wholesome, normal life, and keep in mind her dad is coming from a very hard-nosed New England Irish family, right?
Yep.
And her mom's like the ultra Jew lady, right? So
right.
I mean, of course, right? It's as to the East Coast, right? Not West Coast. Actual Jew, not these secular things that call themselves Jews. So yeah, I'm not surprised she turned out that way.
Secular things.
Well, that's what they are. They're secular things, dude. Yeah.
It's funny. No, honestly, Top Gun Maverick, I recommend it. It's solid from beginning to end. It's I mean, it's a Top Gun movie. It's not, it's not a masterpiece by any means, but it does exactly what it sets out to do, and it does it competently. And one of the things is, Tom Cruise gets a lot of crap for his movies because his characters are typically very similar.
Oh, he's Tom Cruise.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we would have gotten that. We would have gotten the deconstruction of Maverick in Maverick.
Well, Tom does,
and we don't get that.
And he chooses movies that are Tom. I mean, and
he does it well.
Yeah. You go watch a Tom Cruise movie, you're going to enjoy, have a good time. I mean, it's just simple.
Yep.
Is he going to win
Unless you're Grimlock,
No.
because he hates Tom Cruise. He has a vociferous hatred for the man.
He's just popcorn film fun, action fun, Grimlock. He's just Tom Cruise.
I'd want to choke that little manlet.
All right, fine. All right, fine. But it was funny, back to the Laura Dern thing. My wife is just a year younger, but that woman looks 20 years older than my wife, dude.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's rough. And it's weird because I've noticed that too, right? I'm in my late 30s now, which is crazy for me to say, but it's the truth. And I look around and I'm like, I know these people are my age, but I don't look like that. Some people they just don't age well, unfortunately. It just is what it is.
Well, it depends on also what you're doing to yourself. Like if you see a lot, like in my generation, we were talking about Gen X, right? And in my generation, and even in the 70s too, it started in the late 70s, but it's definitely 80s thing. Sun tanning booths. Sun tanning was a big deal when I was a kid. I never did it because, I go down and go surfing and stuff like that, sure, and I go to the beach, but I didn't care about tanning myself, especially because the sun hates me, right? But I never did that. But now you go back, especially the ladies who spent so much time in those tanning booths, dude. They look haggard. They look like a freaking fisherman, 90-year-old fisherman, dude. Just haggard. The sun doesn't like you, people. It doesn't like you, especially if you're white. Don't go tanning boothing. The hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, no. Well, you also have, for me, it's personally, I'm straight edge. I don't do anything. I don't drink or smoke or none of that. So that helps too.
Oh, sure.
My biggest thing was my weight, and I've largely corrected that. 80 pounds in the last year.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's shocking. Like, I have a lot of gray hair. I have a lot of gray hair even for my age.
Mhm.
But from my experience, women seem to love that because I'm going to tell you right now, I get more attention now from ladies than I did 10 years ago.
Oh, sure.
And not much has changed. I mean, I'm in a little bit better shape, but not much has changed otherwise.
Well, it's also because you're married. Women want what they
That helps
think
too,
they can
yeah.
have. They're weird like that. But anyway, let's move on from it. But it is interesting. Cracks are showing up all over Bad Robot, and it couldn't happen to a better person.
Yeah. Good on you, JJ. I hope it's
Yeah.
slow and painful.
Yeah, what a jerk. Anyway, go ahead.
New JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R trailer confirms release date, reveals new characters, and pre-order bonuses. See, I've never gotten into JoJo's, but a lot of
No.
people love it.
No, JoJo is weird to me. I don't like the art. It's very homoerotic, but it's just not my thing. I like the idea of it, though. The idea that a psychic battle is being represented by this thing they call a stand. I thought that was an interesting idea. My kids love JoJo. I put this up here simply because it is so popular. People, I'm sure, are excited and waiting for it. And we just had on Drone Recorder Ultimate Edition, we had a JoJo inspired comic book come out, and I thought that was kind of interesting, and I figured I'd cover it. Now, Tower, you're a younger fella, therefore, are you into the JoJo?
JoJo? He's muted. I don't know if he knows he's muted.
No, not really, actually. I don't actually get into anime or that style. I mean, I just never really. I don't have TV and I don't have a lot of platforms that I have time to watch on, so I just never really got into anime. I want to. I just don't know the best place to find the stuff, and I don't have a lot of time to watch it.
Right. I do believe, I don't know that this is an actual video game is what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about the anime directly. The JoJo. Now, I saw my son playing a video game years back. I doubt it's this one. I mean, it could be. Technically, it could be the same game. Just finally being released to the West. Because a lot of games here in Japan don't get released internationally. I mean, it's actually far more than you think, because this does look like the game he was playing so many years ago. I don't know, but nevertheless, one thing I have to say about the video game, it is a fighting game, a versus type of game. But it did look pretty cool when my son was playing it. It looked fun. If you like those kind of things, no?
Oh, good. Someone's setting off fireworks. It is a holiday.
Personally, me with like video games and that style, I never could get into that art style or like say the Final Fantasies or even the Devil May Cry's. I
Yeah.
want to get into it. I just haven't had a lot of time to sit down. I love the art style. Don't get me wrong. Like I love Devil May Cry's art style, which is what that gives me vibes of. Me personally, I'm all about like Horizon Zero Dawn, like those style, Red Dead Redemption. Right now, I'm doing a full 100% playthrough on The Last of Us, which is hands down to me, owning 700 plus video games on like 12 different consoles. The Last of Us is one of the best games ever made for story, in my opinion.
It is good. Yeah, it is very good.
I'll save my opinion for The Last of Us. Then I'll let him have his.
Well, on the first one, he's talking about the first one, not the second.
I know, and it's I don't know.
I tell you what, and this is how I judge all video games at this point. There's a baseline, and then there's what you expect. Mm-hmm. If you play Last of Us 1 is a timeless masterpiece. I've beat it like 12 different times on various difficulties. Mm-hmm. I've had times where I just played for it just to fucking play through the story again. Last of Us 2, if you play Last of Us 1 in 100% completion and then go and play Last of Us 2, it feels like the same game. I don't care for the bullshit. Oh, like, she's a homeboy, and I don't really care for that play style. Like, the second main character to me looks more like a
Well,
dude than a chick.
It's not a homeboy. It's
But at the
called a
same time,
bull. No, Tower. I have to correct your linguistics here. It's called a bull dyke. You see.
oh, well, the heifer, I don't care for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Now,
would
the
be the
rest of the
scientific
game,
term.
the rest of the gameplay is great. Personally,
I'm sure
as
it
the
does, yeah.
story and that, but I don't look at it like, yeah, it has a side narrative. I don't really give a fuck. As
Well-
far as Last of Us is concerned, it's a decent play.
Well,
But that's
see,
where people shit on a bunch of other games, you know?
right, and you know, and I get your point on that. But the thing I don't understand, because I played Last of Us beginning to end as well. Not as many times as you have, but I have. I don't understand how you take that game and then go into a second game and sexualize the character, kill off our dude. They killed the dude off, man. And I don't know how you sexualize it. I don't know how do you. It's
Chester,
disgusting. It's disgusting.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Did you play the DLC for the first game?
Well, probably not. But I mean, she's just a
Okay.
little teeny
Well,
kid, dude. She's a little kid.
Yeah,
She's scared.
I agree.
You got to
I
protect
agree,
her.
but just know, I know, but just know that wasn't some out of the blue thing. When they came out with the DLC like a year or two after the original game released, it has two parts to it. The little girl Ellie, it has her and her friend. Like, you know how the story she got bit in a mall, and like before the game even begins.
Yeah.
The DLC takes place in that mall with her friend, and they actually have like a kissing scene and all that, which was super controversial when it came out.
Okay,
But
I call
so
bullshit. I call bullshit. I have Thunder Arrow. I mark it
hey,
down.
hey,
I've
look
used
it
one of
up.
my gold
Look it
stars.
up.
I call bullshit because she's a
Look it
little
up.
little girl. She's a little girl. She's
And
not
she's
a
like
14. No, she's not. She's little. She's a little kid, right? And if you play Last of Us, because clearly I haven't played this DLC, because you played all the way through, she's just a little kid. The whole thing is about the dude. You're trying to protect her.
Yeah.
You're being incentivized because he don't wanna. He wants to save his own ass, right? So if you're going to sexualize that little teeny girl, well, fuck you straight to hell.
You're right. I agree. That's why I didn't care for that narrative in that game. And on the other flip side, where you said with like where Joel died right in the beginning, the way they killed him was terrible. It was just
It was
the worst
disrespectful,
possible
dude.
way. It was the worst way you could create like a reasoning for the second game. But on the other flip side of that, Chester, if you look at it through actual gameplay wise, Joel was not a good guy. I mean,
but I think
the story was lighthearted, but what happened to him was deserved. But it shouldn't have happened the way it did.
no, and
If
I
you,
don't.
like,
But it's missing the point, right? It's
Yes.
kind of like taking Thor, who's punished by his dad for being a petulant child, to go and grow and become an actual king, a heroic figure, and then making him fat and then making him gay. It's kind of like that, because you see, Joel is not a good person. Joel wants to leave her to die. But he takes her because he just can't get away from his conscience. The whole play it's all about Joel. The whole damn game is about the dude. It's about him becoming a better man. That's the point.
Yes.
And then the first thing you do in the new game is look, hey, we had an arc here. We had a guy who became a better person. Fuck him, kill him.
He's got to go.
Yep.
Someone needs
There
to
you
kick
go,
square in
man.
the balls, Tower. Square in the balls.
My biggest thing too that got me with that whole how they did it is in the first game, the narrative, he knows what the fuck's going on. Like when they ambush him with the car and that with the hunters, he knows what that's like because he's done it on both sides. So if you're getting chased by a horde of zombies, you get to a house, oh, there's some hunters. People you don't know. Why would you openly give them... You would think you'd be smart enough to give them a fake name because he doesn't know them. He can't trust them. You know?
No, I get you, but I mean, Last of Us 2, it is an example of absolute. Thunder used the word hubris before. It's exactly
Yep.
what that is. It's insulting and disgusting. It completely destroys the whole narrative of the first game. But I'm moving on from it. I'm moving on because if you like JoJo, you got a new game coming, and I'm sure you guys who are JoJo people will enjoy it. And cool. It's supposed to be Happy News Tower. Right. Go ahead.
Disney Plus uses happy news. Drag queens to promote and fund LGBTQ curriculum in public schools.
Of course.
That's what you're funding, guys. If you give your money to Disney, you're funding the sexualization, the homosexualization even of children.
Yeah, and Disney's putting a lot of money toward Glisten, and that's what this article is about. And Glisten is all about sending drag queens for story time and those kind of things to show kids that drag queening is a good thing. Gays are good. You should be gay. Now, here's the thing. That you can have an argument about that, and I kind of wish Ben was here to make the argument. But here's the thing: I've seen a drag queen show before.
Me too.
I've watched drag queen movies. Birdcage, freaking fantastic movie. But one thing you can see across the board with drag queen, it's done tongue in cheek, right? Of course it is. And it's also universally very, very similar because the drag queen is bawdy and raunchous. And that's the point. And we can have a laugh at it, right? But bawdy and raunchy is not for children in any way. I do not understand how the parents in towns are allowing drag queens to come up and read story to, maybe they don't send their kids, but to other kids, and getting up and literally twerking in front of the children. I don't understand why there aren't mobs of people beating them to death. Not that I'm promoting that, by the way, YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah, YouTube, we're not promoting that.
No.
At least on YouTube.
No.
Not on YouTube.
No. Right, because me, I don't care about drag queens. Sure, you go do your thing. Like I said, I've seen some very funny things with drag queens because it's done tongue in cheek. That's kind of the whole deal with it, right? But it's not for kids, dude.
Yeah, and there's just certain things you can't defend, and I know some people will try to make an argument for this. No, there's just certain things you don't do in front of kids. You don't fuck in front of your kids. You don't do these kind of things in front of your kids.
No. Although I did walk into my parents once, and I'll never forget it.
Well, most kids had that story of them walking in on their parents, but it wasn't like the door was wide open. And, Dad was just pile driving Mom, and he's like, "Come on in."
No, Dad.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. Can I ask a question? When did being a drag queen have anything to do with sexuality?
That is fair point. Because it never used.
Because now all of a sudden they've been glommed in with like pride and LGBT. What?
Yeah,
it was entertainment.
That is weird. You're right. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong because I've never been around it. Isn't drag queens just like dudes dressing up like ugly ass chicks with weird colors?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's always been done tongue in cheek, and I give you a good example. Eddie Izzard. Eddie Izzard is an amazing stand-up comedian. Go check out his shit. He's freaking hilarious. He considers himself an executive transvestite, and you go back and watch his stuff, and he will lay it down exactly what a drag queen is.
That's great.
Well, it is. Eddie Izzard's awesome.
Dress to Kill is freaking hilarious.
It is, dude.
I still love
it. I love when he went into the French version of the dissertation he just done. It was freaking awesome.
Oh yeah, the French version of Speed.
Yeah. It was funny. Anyway, how did we conquer the world? With flags. right? Anyway, but drag queens. But no, seriously, this is no joke. Disney is putting money behind Glisten. Glisten's thing is about going into schools and teaching kids about LGBTQF, whatever the hell it is,
Yep.
and promoting gay lifestyles to children. And I don't I understand the poison in these people's minds because I'm not lumping all gays or drag queens or stuff into this conversation because I know many of them are just as pissed as we are, right?
Yeah.
And trust that is true, right? What I don't understand is that clearly we have evil people here, but what I don't understand is how the people in the community aren't stomping it out, aren't stopping it. I don't understand that. See, Thunder, if I was in America, I'd been arrested freaking 10 years ago, dude.
Well, the good news is largely they are. They're not doing it violently, at least not everywhere. I'm sure it's happened occasionally. But they are doing what they can through the legal system to ban it and stop it. So, like a lot of places, they had these sorts of activities happen, and a lot of states, especially more conservative ones, even here in Ohio, put forth bills to quite literally outlaw it because technically it's legal as long as there's no overt sexual acts happening to children or around children.
Twerking.
Yeah, that's not gets considered dancing as long as they're clothed. As long as there's no overt sexual act, then it's technically legal. Now, obviously, a lot of things are technically legal. Doesn't mean you should do them. And so basically, they wanted to just take the technicality away and just know it's illegal. You can't be doing these kind of things around children. Point blank, period. Just like we don't allow, we're not supposed to allow children to be around a bunch of drunks and stuff like that in bars, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing is, another thing with this Thundero is, I know I shouldn't be, but I'm still shocked that Disney's making this play. Do they not understand that they are burning so many bridges? This little community, this little teeny community you're going after is not the average American. The average family American is go watch Clownfish TV. That's your average family. Mom, dad, 4 or 5 kids, right? That's America. It's so insanely stupid. It's particularly for Disney. If this was some other network or some other thing, maybe I would be less infuriated. Well, I wouldn't be, but you know what I mean. But Disney is doing this, dude. Freaking Disney.
You shouldn't be shocked. I've been on here for how long telling you that Disney is one of the core problems. Clearly. They have been pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing my entire life. I remember when I was a young kid, before I was a teenager, watching some of their stuff, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. Because I was a really intelligent kid, and I had, unfortunately, at that time, already been exposed to very, let's just say, degenerate things. Mm-hmm. And so it caught me off guard. You can see it throughout all of their old movies, even. Now, they tried to play it off, it was just animators having fun. Okay, then why was it in every movie? All of them had some form of overt sexual messaging in it. All of them. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why was that necessary?
Ethan Van Sciver did it too, and he laughed about it. Yes. But I mean, should you? Should you be doing that, Ethan?
No, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be putting things like this where very, very impressionable minds can get it. Now, there's a balance to it, because like you were talking about earlier, and I know if Ben was here, he probably would make that point to some degree. But the balance isn't men dressing up as women, dancing around like a bunch of psycho freaks, talking about things. Well, we've both been to drag queen shows. As far as I know, they don't censor it too much, even around the kids. So that's just completely inappropriate.
There should be no kids. Not for kids.
It's completely inappropriate. I agree with you. I think if it keeps up, I think you're going to start to see more and more aggression about it. Right now, for the most part, it's been done legally. Like I was saying, a lot of states have outright banned it or ran the people promoting it literally out of town in many little towns and cities. Because even in little towns, like with little libraries, they had drag queen story hour in them. Just little podunk towns. You're like, what? Who? Well, now you screwed up, because if you're in a small town, well, everybody knows you, and everybody knows where you live.
Yeah,
Now
that's
you got a
true.
problem.
That's true.
Uh,
Well, it's like vaudeville, and vaudeville was
Yeah.
not for children in any way, shape, or form. Right? That's adult
Right.
entertainment, right? That's the
Correct.
thing where you got the babysitter and you went out with to see the show. You did not bring the kids. And like I
Right.
said, I have no trouble with the whole drag queen shtick. You go right ahead, but not for kids, man. Yeah,
And a lot of
that's
drag
what's
queens
irritating
agree
me.
with that, by the way. A couple of, I can't remember their names because I'm not a big drag queen aficionado, but I've seen a couple of them with some clout say that this stuff being around children is inappropriate. Um, and I just don't understand. I would love to hear the argument for why children need to be shown this. Why? It's just like I need the argument for why a kindergarten teacher needs to talk to a child about their love life.
Yeah, I
What
don't
is
get
the
that
argument
either.
there?
I mean, we talked about that before. I don't
Yeah,
know anything about any of my past teachers. I don't know who they're married to. I don't know their
I don't
personal
even know their
life.
names.
Some of them are
I know their
married.
last names because
Yeah,
they were
maybe the
Mrs. or Mr.
Mrs. or Mister. That's
Yeah,
true. Yeah, and the fact that you got these teachers spending so much of the class talking about themselves, it's like that's not your job. You realize
yes.
it's
These aren't your friends,
it's not about
you weirdo.
you. It's about
Go make
them.
some real friends, you actual creep. What are
Yeah,
you doing talking to children like that?
yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna move
Ugh.
on from this. But I'm just Disney. Are you kidding me, dude?
No, I'm gonna take the most extreme position. Disney needs to be destroyed utterly, uh, absolutely, utterly, entirely. All their IP needs to be distributed, and the company needs to be completely eradicated from the American way of life.
Poor
There
Walt,
comes
man.
a point where something has to give, and somebody with the power to correct has to correct, and this company's got to go. They just got to go. They need to pull their business charter and shut them down forever. That's what I would do. If I was, they should be damn glad that they talk about DeSantis. DeSantis is a lefty. He's soft on Disney. I'd go way harder. I'd be arresting people. These people would be done. Over. And wherever that money went, I'd find that too, and those
Well,
people would be done.
I call him a
Period.
moderate manager.
Yes.
But that's what he should be, though. He's governor.
I think that the people, whoever's making these calls at Disney, and maybe I'm overstating this, but I think they're just outing themselves.
Yeah.
Clearly,
Because
clearly, yeah.
They're protesting this way too hard, and there's no good reason to. Plus the fact that if you look at it going back as far as 2014, it seems like every year, especially in near their headquarters, you have employees getting busted for some sort of sexual crime.
Yeah, we report it all the time over here. That's true.
Even executives at Disney get busted all the time.
I mean, the last thing that Disney should be doing is this. Like, there's no justifiable reason for a drag queen story hour anywhere. It's like you wouldn't take your kid to a strip club. Like, okay, we understand that.
You wouldn't even take your kid. I would hope you wouldn't even take your kid to a club where there's adults dancing, right? For one, you're not allowed to because there's probably alcohol in there, and for two, just as a reasonable person, who would do that? Who would take their child into that environment where sexuality is not only implied, it's pretty damn in your face when it comes to like adult dance clubs, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what they're for. But kids don't belong there.
Well, to be fair, though, I have seen kids backstage, though. But that's their children they brought in with.
Yeah, it's still not like right in it. You know what I mean? Like it's a different animal.
Kind of babysat kids as a bouncer a couple times.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, it's just about.
But again, by the way, let's be honest though. Let's be honest though. The people who are doing that are most likely not the people you want to be the role model for your children.
No, that is true. But they, of course, are never in the actual proper front room ever.
Right.
But I'm just to quantify it, But no, they're not. Although I've certainly met strippers who are just simply making money to get them through college or something, and they were just normal people. But a lot of them are mentally unstable.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, one of the toughest thing of being a bouncer in a strip club. It is better money. So if you're a bouncer, go to strip clubs because you make a lot more money. But you're constantly those girls are constantly rubbing their tits on you. They're constantly grabbing your crotch. They're constantly trying to get a rise out of you. Constantly.
Yeah.
Right. And and not every single one. Like I said, some are just normal girls just trying to make money. But for the most part, they are. And it is no environment for a child. That is, it's not. It's really no environment for me.
It's trouble.
It
What
is
we're
trouble.
saying. It's
It is
trouble.
trouble. Yeah. But anyway, it's just shocking to me, dude. It's shocking. Let's move on to more fun. Lots of fun. Okay.
Oh, here we go. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Episode 1 review. Hey, he found punctuation. The degradation continues.
Okay. Now,
I don't think anybody's surprised. Are
No,
we surprised?
I'm not even going to
No.
bother watching this thing. I've kind of given up,
Me
especially
neither.
in Star Wars. But
Yeah.
they do kind of a breakdown of the episode here, and basically it's just showing that Disney doesn't care anything about continuity, which is why I put it in the title. And there are other examples here that are kind of covering that kind of idea. But so let me ask Grimlock a question. Grimlock,
Yep.
seeing as you are the Star Wars aficionado,
I'm not.
I know, but no, seriously, if I were to ask you, what was Obi-Wan doing during the end of the last prequel, where he took Luke to his family, and A New Hope? What was Obi-Wan doing?
Basically hiding and keeping an eye on Luke. I mean,
That's right.
wasn't
This is exactly what George Lucas said he was doing, very
That's right.
specifically, right? He was there. He had himself in hiding because he's an outlaw, basically, which is why he didn't keep him himself. And he's watching him. Now, we can all get into the logic, and of course, this comes into the fact that they didn't know that Darth Vader was going to be his dad in the first one, simply because if you're trying to hide someone's thought to be dead kid, you don't put them with their relative on their home planet.
Right.
Okay.
Well, yes, but then there's also the logic of put it where it's hiding it in plain sight.
Fair
It's
enough.
the one place Vader wouldn't look.
Sure, especially because he thought they were dead. But anyway,
Right.
once again, we're on Tatooine, of course. Tatooine only has a couple of locations. It doesn't have anything else on the entire planet, obviously. But what's happening here is you have the Inquisition, right? The Inquisitors, which were introduced in Clone Wars, I think.
Yeah.
Or Rebels or something like
Might have
that.
been one of the books,
Rebels.
but yeah.
Which is fine. And this main lady, who's going to be your main character, she's the stand-in for Darth Vader, I am sure. I don't even know if we're going to see Darth Vader in this at all, actually. But she just likes killing shit, and the higher level Inquisitor has to keep kind of keeping her back from killing everything. But then she goes and kills stuff anyway. So it's like it doesn't make any sense. The whole thing is convoluted. It breaks with continuity because he's not just sitting watching Luke. He's actually, once again, just like with Luke, older Luke, he's given up. He's buried his lightsaber. We lost. It's done. He's given up 100%, right? And of course, that's not at all what Obi-Wan is. But it's,
No.
these male leaders, they're just effectless and useless, and they're quitters, right? They got to have this kind of motif going on with it. But it sounds like it's an absolute train wreck of an episode, which I'm not surprised by. But where they're going with it is this: the whole thing is Organa, the dude, Smits, I think his name is Jimmy Smits. Is that the actor's name that played him in the prequels?
Yes.
Well, he shows up in this, actually.
No.
What was that?
Oh, that was my bad. I'm actually playing Last of Us right now as we speak, and I forgot I was unmuted.
Oh, okay. And then they also have another scene where a Jedi gets killed, and for somehow little Padawans get away, which I understand they want to have more to deal with in the future. I get it. But that's kind of once again breaking continuity. But where is he here, Smits? I saw a picture of him. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, this is the lady who's your main character, really. Where is Smits? Oh, there he is. Okay, Jimmy Smits. I think his name is Jimmy Smits. He's the guy that plays Organa, the one that from Alderaan, the one that took in a little baby Leia. And
Yeah.
basically, what's happening is he's supposed to be in hiding. He's an outlaw, right? But everyone seems to know exactly where Obi-Wan is,
Yes, except
right?
the Empire somehow.
Except for the Empire. And he just kind of shows up because he's trying to convince him because they've kidnapped Princess Leia, which is okay. Once again, continuity. Darth Vader has no idea his kids are alive until he senses Luke and knows it through his force power that Luke is his kid, not from
Yep.
information. Right? He thought they were dead. So if they've kidnapped Princess Leia, then they know who she is. Therefore, Darth Vader would know who she is, right? So once again,
Right.
conta-fucking-nuity, right? And the thing is, Clone Wars did a really good take on Obi-Wan coming out of hiding to help out the Mandalorians, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he kind of fell in love with the Mandalorian Queen and all that kind of stuff, which I thought was you could have done that storyline, right? But no, that's not what they're doing. So Organa calls him up for some reason. He has direct communication line with Obi-Wan, the outlaw in hiding, and Obi-Wan is like, "Nah, I ain't helping," because he's a quitter. You see, but
Yeah.
Organa
He's known
has.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's quitter. Of course, the fact that he is the greatest sword fighter of all the Jedi ever, right? He is
He's up there.
that's his thing, right? I mean, if you look at Anakin, what's his thing? He's the best pilot. Yoda is the best Force user. Obi-Wan is the best fighter. That's his thing, right? I guarantee you he's going to get his ass kicked over and over in this. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. But anyway, Organa goes to him directly and says, "You got to get it back." Right, so he's got to go through all this effort to get Obi-Wan to do what Obi-Wan would do naturally, right? And of course, everyone knows exactly where he is, which doesn't make any sense. So this whole thing is not going to be about Luke at all, which is fine. It's going to be about Leia. All right. And it's going to be about him trying to get her back and him dealing with this lady here, uh, this lady right here. And that's Owen. That's Uncle Owen, by the way. And they had a scene where she's threatening to kill him, and it's like, yeah, well, you do realize there's no way that can happen. Do you think Star Wars would go so far as to break continuity to kill Uncle Owen 10 years early?
I think there is no level of depravity that Disney would sink. None. I mean, look what they did to Luke. They literally could not have done anything worse to him than to make him a coward, attempted murderer.
Yeah, no, it's
Literally.
ridiculous. And they did the same thing with
Except for
Obi-Wan.
maybe a pedophile, I guess. That would have been about as low as you could go.
Right, and they're doing the same thing with Obi-Wan. Now, this character
Yep.
right here, what's her name, Reva or something like that, in and of herself,
like
it's
that.
no problem whatsoever, right? It's
She
not a
actually
problem.
kind of looks like a badass. I
She
like her
does.
look. Nice
So
look.
she's noisy. She's getting up there. It's about time, and it's like about time we have black people represented in Star Wars, and it's like, yeah, there was
You're
this
only
dude.
50 years late, honey, but go on.
Yeah, I know. It was this guy named Lando Calrissian. Pretty main character too. Yeah, but no, she's the first black person ever in Star Wars. Just so you know.
What
Carl
about
Weathers
Samuel
says hello.
Jackson?
Mace Windu, who probably is the best swordsman, but we'll have that debate later.
Well, canon-wise, though, Obi-Wan is supposed to be. I get your point. But I think Mace Windu is just more overall good at kind of everything, but he's not as specialized. He's more of a Renaissance man than a focus specialist. So yeah, I think he's a better character than Obi-Wan. But you know what I mean. I don't want to get into that conversation. That'll take me down a very long tangent. But this character in and of itself isn't a problem at all. It's fine. It's a new character that is part of the Inquisition that's hunting Jedi. Okay, fine, right? But the comments coming out of the actress is like, how stupid are you? Even just recently, we had a certain character named Finn.
Yeah.
Right.
Who should have been the star of that series, but
they
Disney is afraid of
kid.
China. and they know in China black people don't sell.
No, they don't. The Chinese
China.
are pretty racist, but they hate everybody
Yeah.
equally.
Yeah, I mean it's don't worry, black people. They hate white people too.
Oh, they
well,
hate
they hate us in a different way,
They do.
right? They hate us, but they also love to make fun of us. So it's
Oh,
fine.
they absolutely adore mocking white people. That's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just so stupid. And I agree. Finn was a cool character, and they wasted that character. I mean, Grim, like, did you like the Finn character?
No, because he disappears after the first movie.
Well, I
Like,
mean, do you like what he could have been? The potential.
the idea of him, I guess, yeah,
Yeah.
I could say yeah.
Because he was the
But-
best thing in The Force Awakens, as far as I'm concerned. He was the most
Because
interesting
I
character.
agree.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
him and Han
even though
Solo,
it was even though it was kind of obvious in the first movie what they wanted to do, and I think most fans wanted that to happen.
hmm
It's
What a gay love
just
scene
went
between him and Oscar Isaacs.
no. That I think the world could have done without that one.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Weird Twitter people wanted that to happen.
Yeah. No, it's. I don't get when people say stupid shit like this. It's like, first of all, look, we get this. This is your big break, and you should make the most of it. But saying dumb shit like that does nothing for you, especially on a series that most people was only going to watch that first episode to see if it was going to be shit or not, and it already is. And to say something like that just gave more people a reason to not fucking watch it.
Right.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to ask you as well. She was going on about black lesbian ladies as well, which I guess she's a lesbian. And I've heard Kevin Samuels talk about it a little bit, and I've heard Tommy Sotomayor talk about it, and a few other people. What the hell's going on with lesbianism in the black community, dude? What's going on?
I have no idea. Hollywood wants you to think that half the country is freaking LGBT, and they're
Yeah, but
fucking not.
those black dudes who are trying to, like Thomas Sowell and others we've talked about, they are trying to kind of help their community, right? And I've heard them complain about the rampant lesbianism inside the black community many times, dude.
What?
I don't know that I'm just going from what they say because I'm not in the black community. Shocking.
I honestly, I don't know what the hell women are thinking these days, and they don't know what they're thinking.
That's probably true.
They think they do.
Yeah. The funny thing is, though, when I was a young man growing up, a kid and a young man, I had all kind of kids around me, and looking back, they were different colors, right? But no one actually thought about those things in the 70s and 80s. They were just the kids in your neighborhood,
Yeah.
So if I go back and think, I had quite a few black friends, especially when I was a little bit older, like a young man. I had a lot of black friends, but they weren't black friends, though, Grimlock. They were just friends. There was no black and
you can't
white.
have that these days.
Yeah, and it's weird how in 30 years things have really, really changed, dude. Because we didn't have these conversations.
In my lifetime.
It seems so. 21st century sucks balls. I could say that.
Yeah. You'll get no
I don't
disagreement
know
from me.
why I keep having. I have a bunch of like my work's 50-50 white and black, and growing up, in my area it's been the same way. When I was growing up, and I don't know, some of it's probably because I was a kid, but even like freshman year of high school, it never really was. It wasn't like your black friends. Everyone's just buddies with each other and cool. And then by the time I hit, say, like 2019, 2020, everything was about race. I don't know why. It's still like that. Everything is. It's like people are more racist now, and the way that they care about race. Where like growing up, it didn't seem like people really cared about race, at least like that,
no,
to make a
Tower,
point out of it.
When I was a kid, Tower, we never used it unless we would be descriptive. Oh yeah, that big old black dude over there looks like a gorilla. That's the only time we would say it.
You talk about Leslie Jones, or
yeah, exactly. But of course I'm being facetious. But I mean, literally, the only time we used color was simply to be descriptive.
Well,
It just wasn't part of the lexicon, dude.
well, going back to what we was talking about earlier, when we was talking about Mr. Rogers, when he introduced people, he never said their race. He just said, "This is my friend. This is my
Yeah,
neighbor. This is
yeah,
this," and
sure,
that was it.
yeah, because that's all they are. I mean, because this whole racism thing is complete political bullshit because it has nothing to do with color. It has to do with culture.
Yes.
And I'll say this
Correct.
straight up: when I was younger, the black culture was certainly a little different, but not so much so. These days, it's very different, and I
Yeah.
don't think I like what you would call the urban culture.
Yeah.
Which covers a lot of blacks, but not all blacks.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
tell you the
think I
truth,
like where
Chester.
they've gone, dude. Huh?
Most of them don't like it either.
I bet you.
That's
I
why
don't
the
want
first
to. I don't
chance
want
they
to.
get out of it.
I don't want to make it like a racist thing, but like at work,
Oh, dude,
a
way too
great
late.
work. Oh well, shit. Like at work, like a good example for me is at work. The vast majority, and I mean everybody tears shit up, but the vast majority of the dudes who are like breaking the dashes, spitting sunflower seeds in the trucks, and just generally destroying shit because they do not give a fuck
Oh yeah,
are the black
red
guys.
dudes. Oh, or black. I've seen
And,
white dudes do it too. Yeah,
well, don't
yeah.
get me wrong. I've seen white guys, but the vast, at least 3/4 of the dudes who do the majority of the damage at our work are the black dudes who grew up in those, who are from those communities.
It seems so. Yeah,
Where the ones who bring like race into everything are the same
sure.
ones who just
Yeah.
tear the fuck out of everything they see.
Now I'm just
Here's my
saying things
biggest
have
problem
changed.
with it,
Is all.
Chester.
Yeah.
My biggest problem with it is when you start to define things, our social our social climate is very racially aware now, right? Everything's about whatever color you are, especially if you're not white, then you're celebrated or
Something
whatever.
special. Yeah.
My biggest problem with that is when you lump everybody together that way,
Mhm.
you take the piece of shit drug dealer and this dude who I see at the park all the time who has about 10 little boys, well, I say little boys, they're teenagers, the 10 boys that I'm assuming he's some kind of coach or something for them, but he's there every day with them that I'm there
Mhm.
for a good hour and a half, 2 hours, and they're working out, they're getting in shape, he's teaching them things, I can hear him teaching them things, I can hear him, trying to get their confidence up, because some of them
Yeah.
aren't exactly athletic types,
Hey, good man.
but he's trying. He's trying. And he goes there with them, and then there's this big staircase that goes down to another part of the park, and they'll go over to that, and they'll do drills up and down it, up
Sure.
and down it, up and down. And he does them with them. He goes up and down it with them, up and down it with them.
Hey, good on
This
him. Dude.
guy, big black dude, because of the way they classify everything and try to make it all about race, in their way of putting things, there's no difference.
Yeah.
There's no difference between this piece of shit who's out here slinging dope and hurting people and this awesome dude who's trying to help these kids. There's multiple races in these kids, so it ain't got nothing to do with color. To the way that they do it, and this is why I think racism is such a dehumanizing term in and of itself, and it needs to be abandoned entirely, because it forces you tangentially to put everybody into a category. Because the only way you can have racism is to have races of categories of races.
Yeah.
The only way it can matter is if those things already exist.
Right.
So you can't have it both ways. If race is totally a social construct, which is what they claim, right? There's no actual difference. It's a complete social construct, which is true. Then you can't put people into these categories because it's unfair, right? You can't. That's not how the reality works. If it's not a totally social construct, then when you put people into those categories, you have to understand that those categories aren't absolute. And when you try to say things like oh, he's not black enough, or oh, he ain't white enough,
God,
things we've
that
all
is
heard
the
that
funniest
nonsense.
thing. Yeah, no, judge people based on what they do.
Pure racism by their definition.
It is. Well, I just made Thundera. I just made the gorilla joke, right? And
Yes.
why am I making that joke? Because these days, you mentioned the word primate or monkey in any way. You seem to any black person around just goes ape. But here's the thing, though. When I was a kid, what was the term gorilla when it came to humans applied to?
Just a big old dude.
Big old, usually Italian goons.
Yes.
right?
Those big gorillas. Yes,
Not
you're right.
associated
Exactly.
with blacks
Mobsters.
at all. Is
Yep.
mainly
Yep.
an Italian association.
Or,
Right.
or even like bouncers were called gorillas. The
That's
big
right.
gorillas
I've been
over
called
there.
a gorilla many times to my
Yeah.
face, trying to get me mad. And I am a gorilla. I'm a Sasquatch. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
also monkey. Who are monkey usually
Yes.
applied to? Frickin' Jackie Chan. He's a monkey,
Yeah.
right?
Or if you're Diamond Dallas Page, the wrestler, everybody. He used to call everybody monkey.
Exactly.
Listen here, monkey.
Yeah, monkey.
tell ya.
Of course, he's applying it differently, right? But I'm just saying, when I was young, there was no primate association with black people directly.
Right.
But now there is, it seems, and also fried chicken and watermelon. Fuck you, dude. I love me some fried chicken and watermelon. You go to
Right?
hell. You don't get that.
Who
You don't
decided
you can't
they get
take
all that to themselves?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
It's like Louis Farrakhan trying to claim the word black. Fuck off, Louis Farrakhan.
First of all, you're not black.
No.
There's only one group of black
we get
humans,
that
and those are
word.
South Indians. Everybody else is some shade of brown or up to whatever white people are. So calm down. You don't get to
calm
own
the
the
hell
word
down,
that you're
yeah.
not even.
Yeah, like I remember seeing Farrakhan. He was on Phil Donahue show, and I just dated myself. But he's on the Phil Donahue show, and he was doing his normal bullshit, and he was up there saying we have words in our society. Things like the kettle is black, and he's just going on the black is night, and on and on. And every reference he's saying basically is some slight against the Negroid population, right? And it's like you realize none of those things have anything to do with black people whatsoever, at all. There's
That's right.
zero association at all, right? But it is radical how things have changed. It's radical, right? Because I've seen people getting up and making this whole primate argument left and right, and it's like, when did that? Someone tell me, when did that shit start?
Well,
when did it start?
I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know where that suddenly became the most offensive thing of all time. If I had to guess, it was right around the time of social media's rise, because I would assume to many people it already was, and by many I don't mean anywhere near a majority, or probably even really a plurality, just enough. And because their voice was able to be amplified, it spread. That idea that it's the super offensive thing spread.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, dude. But to put a little bug under the skin, the ironic thing is, Thundero, what is your actual skin tone aside from any pigmentation?
My personal one or anybody's?
Yeah, you personally, yeah.
My personal skin tone, I'm a mess because I'm a mutt, Chester. But my personal skin tone, I'm pretty much just a white boy. I'm a tan boy. Pink boy.
Probably pink. There's the word.
Yeah.
Pink.
Pink
You're
boy.
Pink. And if you come over here to Asia with the Orientals, right, their skin tone is actually yellow. Right?
That's right.
If you go to India, their skin tone, and the Middle East as well, their skin tones are brownish, like a very light brown.
Right.
But here's the very interesting thing. Take away the melanin. What color are black people?
They turn pink?
No, they're white. They're actually
they're
white.
like, well, if you take all the melanin, yeah, you're right. If you take all the melanin away, they turn white. If you take all our
melanin away, we are pink. If you take all their melanin away, they are actually white. So in reality, black people are the only actual whites.
Well, and albinos, but yeah.
Well, I mean, but albinism amongst them is often not direct albinism. It can be. But what it is, and that's why you see a much higher rate of what people kind of automatically call albinism. It's not. You have what Michael Jackson said he had, right? Where actually their melanin has fallen away. They just don't have melanin. They were born without it, and therefore they're their natural color, which is white.
Hey, that's called vitiligo. I actually know that because my dad has it.
Yep. But I'm just saying.
As a white guy.
But I mean, ironic, is it not?
It is. Well, and it's like, listen, I 100% think race is real and is important. I'll never back away from that. I think it does matter. I don't think that it matters more than reason. I don't think that it matters more than religion, and I don't think it matters more than a personal sense of moral responsibility. When you have those three things in the correct way, there is no human being or group of human beings that degenerate into chaos. We know this because if it was based upon, your genetics solely, then those people could never not be that thing. They would always be some form of degenerate, whether it's extremely violent or criminal or
Right. Yeah.
pick a thing.
It kills the argument. It does immediately.
Yeah.
But
And since they're not, we know they can't. That's
No,
not a
it's-
guarantee. There's no absolutism in
it's
genetics
purely
like that.
culture. It's purely culture.
Yeah.
And how dumpy does Obi-Wan look in this picture?
He does look pretty dumb, and he looks even kind of chubby, even not just dumpy. Like maybe a little chub on that belly there. He's been eating too good out in his exile.
Too many tacos.
Yeah, he's been eating them sand people tacos.
I guess he has. But anyway, I'm going to move on from this. But man, they've really degenerated the culture, though. They really have. It's quite disgusting.
Yeah.
Because no one actually cares, dude. That's the thing I would like to say to a lot of the urban culture these days, or I guess would be considered the official black culture. I don't know if that's actually true. I would say, you're not that special. You're just like the rest of us.
Yeah, and that's what scares most people is not being unique.
It seems.
They can't tolerate the fact that most cultures are well, I'm just saying most as a stop hedge. Probably all are basically the same level of fucked in different ways.
Of course, humans are humans. That's true.
We're humans.
Yeah.
There's an evil spirit within us, whatever you want to call it, that's capable of doing great evil, and there's a good one that's capable of doing great good.
I do love the sound of in Japanese better than in English. Then same thing. Humans are humans. Ningen ga ningen.
Yeah.
It just sounds better.
That's right.
Anyway,
it does. Japanese is actually a nice language. I like listening
it has
to
its
it.
moments. That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, this right here, I'm probably gonna have a different take than you.
Woke celebrities shamelessly politicize Texas school shooting. Push for gun control and urge voters to elect Democrat candidates because they've been so effective at stopping gun crime in their cities.
But here's the thing: let them talk, please.
No, yeah,
keep talking.
Go on.
Yeah,
go on.
Because no one's buying your shit anymore. Keep talking, and it's just going to encourage more people to not vote Democrat.
Yeah. Well, here's the other problem is they want to ban assault rifles, assault weapons, whatever that means. There's actual no definition for that. It's literally a made-up term by politicians. But they want to ban them. Okay, you understand that especially the AR-15 is probably, if not definitely, the most widely distributed firearm in the country.
Yeah.
And literally everybody owns them. Not just a bunch of white people, not just a bunch of hicks. Everybody's got one, or an AK, something also a very cheap rifle that's fairly reliable.
Yeah, and it's just a 22 long, dude.
Yeah, it's a mid-tier rifle.
I'm a man of culture. I have a Car 98K mounted on the wall right above my head right now.
Yeah,
but they're worried about the AR-15, not that. You see, because they're stupid and they don't understand that the AR-15 is actually kind of a weak firearm.
It is a weak firearm.
You know what the solution is? You just put a wood stock on it, and then it's no longer dangerous.
That's right. Yeah, it takes away all the violence. It just goes away when you put it on there.
Chester, the one that always got me with the whole gun control policy is people are like, the founding fathers intended muzzle loaders, and I'm like, I don't know about you, but if you know anything about guns, I would rather get shot by an AR-15. I don't want to get shot. Yes. Take this in mind. But
I would take
shot
10 shots from an AR-15 before I took a muzzle loader shot. Hell yeah,
dude, well, you're done. You get hit by a muzzle loader. That's it.
I have a 50 caliber muzzle loader. We cast lead maxi 50 caliber slugs for it. I have seen that. I've shot that motherfucker, and you get shot with the AR-15, it's going right through your arm. You get shot with the muzzle loader, you no longer has arm.
Yes,
right.
No, it's true. But
they just don't know. They're completely ignorant. They have no idea what they're talking about, and they think they do. And for some weird reason, I think most of them are sincere in their belief that if they just get rid of the gun, bad people will stop doing bad things. No, They'll
No.
just make nail bombs and blow kids up that way. Would you
run
rather
around
that?
with knives or something like that? That's true. But the funny thing about it is, there are plenty of guns they don't talk about and seem to have no problem with that will tear shit up way more than an AR-15, dude.
Yeah.
Especially some of those German ones. Watch out, dude.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, I think they should. I just let them talk because they're only helping. The
That's
thing
true.
with, like, say, George here, he, these kind of guys, he thinks like he's the only gay dude, gay Asian in history or something, right?
Yeah.
All of them, they think they're like really special representations of what they are, and it's like, not really, dude. This guy, Kids in the Hall guy, I mean, he's always, been what he is. I kind of recognize her, but not offhand. But they just kind of going on and on every time it comes up. And this right here, I'm not going to play the volume, but this, you guys have seen this. This is Beto O'Rourke coming up and making
Yes.
an absolute ass of himself. And this is one thing I do have to give in this conversation. The Republicans in general, even libertarians, conservatives, let's use that word, they will
Yep.
sit there and look at the tragedy. They'll pray for the families. They'll do all those kind of things you're expected to do. And then maybe later on, they'll start politicizing stuff. But they won't jump on that immediately because it's disgusting. But these damn
is.
liberals, all they do, you heard Biden get up there talking about it. Did he mention the kids once? Did he mention the children once? No. Guns,
Not that I heard.
disgusting. How dare a kid? Did he mention the dead kids once? No.
Or did he mention the hero who drove 40 miles out of his way because his wife told him there was a shooting going on?
Right.
With a shotgun, walked in and ended the son of a bitch?
Yeah. No.
Did he mention him? This actual American hero? No. We don't get to talk about that. Actual legend who everyone should know his name. He should be as famous as John Wayne because he did some John Wayne shit. But no, we don't get to talk about him. We got to talk about guns, Chester. Guns.
Yeah, I know. It is disgusting what they do, and they always do this. But this president is really bad. I mean, I wonder if the liberals are missing Trump yet. Yeah.
Some of them are. This is what pisses me off, is when they're dishonest about it. Right? If you want to get rid of guns, get rid of the Second Amendment. Stop with this bullshit. If that's what you want to do, go to the source and don't try to do some ridiculous nonsense where the words don't mean what they say. Go to the source and repeal the Second Amendment with a constitutional amendment. It can be done.
That will kill
it'll never happen.
That would start a civil war.
I know. But listen to me. Listen. At least be fucking honest about it.
Yeah, right.
Stop with this bullshit gaslighting of no one wants to take your guns. You're so full of shit, it's coming out of all of your orifices. Because, first of all, Mr. O'Rourke and the current sitting president said on national television that they absolutely are coming for your guns.
Oh, yeah.
Exact quote.
Yeah. Well,
so was he lying, or are you lying?
Yeah, Tower.
Where you were saying with some of the liberals with the current president and all that, I know quite a few in my age group who voted for him, and all of his policies absolutely don't affect them at all.
Of course they do.
I say that wholeheartedly.
Of course they do.
No.
Yes, they do.
I have a...
Yes,
now,
they do.
okay,
do they go to the store and buy
say.
Snicker bars? Do they have their little junk-ass $100 cars that they're driving around trying to keep gas in it to go down the road to their friend?
No.
Of course they do.
No. This is where I'm saying the big policies that affect like the vast majority of everyone, these liberal kids in the cities it doesn't affect. Dude, I know 7 people I can tell you right off the top of my head who I went to school with, know them quite well. Hardcore Bernie bro liberals, vote for Democrats all the way. One of them is actually running for office right now for being like Bernie bro for my local town. Like, fuck, dude, I can't vote for you. He doesn't have a car. 25. Doesn't have a car. Never has a car. Government should pay for all transportation. Goes to college. Hasn't paid a dime for it. All government grants. Good on him. Lives with his parents. Doesn't pay for anything. He has a bullshit job at Walmart and that's the only money he's ever made. But he has government grant cards, so
Mhm.
his everything that he ever has to buy has been given to him.
I
So
under,
he's never had to really work hard for anything in his life.
I
So him
understand.
and his buddy vote hardcore with that.
I understand there's a lot of kids, young kids that fall into that category, and I understand that's what it's part of being a kid. You're learning to be an adult. I understand that. But the thing is, it's still not true. It doesn't matter if everything you're saying is accurate, and I'm sure it is. It doesn't matter because everyone around them is being depressed by the economic situation. Everything around them is being affected, and it's impossible that they're not being affected as well, or infected. It's just impossible because your America is on the cusp of a major recession, probably a depression, and it is orchestrated one. And they will feel it because yes, okay, he's home with mom and dad, but mom and dad are paying more. That means he gets less. That means they're under more pressure. That means there's more stress in the house. It is affecting them, even though they might not be a direct consumer. It is affecting them. But I get your point. But then you get comments like this, and I wanted to show this one particularly before I move on from Bette Midler. Of course, we know she's a genius. But what in God's name are we doing? This has got to change. This nation is full of people who cannot control their worst impulses, and the innocent always pay the price. Don't say don't save fetuses only to have them die at school because you love your guns more than life. For shame. Um, okay,
Shut up,
let me
bitch.
read that again. Don't save fetuses only to have them die at school. So is this a slight against the pro-life? Is that what that was? Is that a
I just want to
pro-life
know when
life
somebody's
slight?
gonna slap her. When is
Yeah.
somebody gonna slap the hell out of Bette Midler?
Well,
Nobody,
she has
unfortunately. Probably
armed
never going to
guards.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you see, she's better than you.
Pretentious rich bitch who just talks out of her ass, hasn't lived in reality in 40 fucking years. I love that they're still trying to make a partisan issue out of this. And this is one of the reasons I can never get Republicans, because they're too stupid to fucking know when they have
That
a
is
win
true.
in their hands.
That is true.
They could fucking win this shit really easily by fucking just telling people this is not a partisan issue. This is not a. There are so many things that have led to these failures.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things is law enforcement.
Oh yeah. That's true.
Another thing is the mental health, the lack of mental health institutions, proper mental health institutions, all these drugs they have given to people. Another thing that they're not going to say out loud because they would have to admit that they're fucking wrong. The lockdowns right now. People not going to want to hear this, but you're going to hear it by Christmas. Almost every problem that's going to happen in America for the next 10 months, the lockdowns can be tied to this. Whether it's the baby formula shortages, the high gas, it's all coming back to that. But they're not going to say it out loud because these fucking liberals are not going to admit that they're fucking wrong. Everything else.
Even with that, now with like the stupid high inflation, we're losing workers.
That's all because of that. That's what I'm saying. But also, they also didn't talk about the amount of suicides that went up.
Oh yeah.
They're not going to talk about the amounts of drug overdoses that went up. I gotta find somewhere to verify it, but I've heard multiple times that more people died of drug overdoses in San Francisco than they died from COVID.
Probably
during this period,
because COVID, it was very 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 low death rate. I'm sure it's true.
You have all of these problems. You have all of these mentally disturbed people who have been locked down, and sometimes the worst thing to do with, especially people with mental issues or problems, is to leave them alone. Sometimes that's the worst thing you can do. And another thing they don't want to bring up is where the hell was these kids' parents?
Yeah, well, that's another issue that doesn't get covered. Well, I mean, just to make a
But
comic book reference,
runs.
we had Cates recently doing that Titan Hulk run, right? And the Hulk
Yeah.
stuff's actually been pretty good recently. But the whole comment they were making is he basically had locked up the Hulk's personality inside the body, and he was kind of piloting the Hulk, as if it were a ship. And the comment that came out of that from Cates was the fact that when you take something that is rage like that and you lock it up, when it finally gets out, my God, the damage it's going to cause.
Yeah.
It's true. It is true. Yeah. But I agree. I agree 100% with that. But still, let them talk because they're only helping.
And
Yeah.
I gotta say, social media. I know for the it's made the average person pretty fucking insufferable. But I mean, people like George Takei and Bette Midler, social media has made. If they wasn't considered insufferable before, they damn sure were.
Yeah.
I mean, I know. Don't encourage violence, but if them two got their asses whooped, I wouldn't feel the least bit sad about it.
Well, I'm sure it'd be their
Like,
cards.
I
getting
just
their ass
wish
whooped,
somebody would
you know?
go ECW New Jack on them and stab him in the forehead with a fork.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You get it. Going back
Challenge
to
him to a hardcore match.
Ric Flair days. Yeah, those guys.
Oh yeah.
But
Absolutely.
anyway,
Terry Funk, call their mom a whore on the way out.
yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Freaking Funk is awesome.
Oh.
Let's move on. Let's move on. Now this is kind of a little quick one, but go ahead.
Warner Brothers reportedly cancels Russian language version of Gotham Knights in response to Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Oh, I'm sure Russia is just. Oh, they might never recover from this one, Chester. That might be it.
Right.
That might be the end of Russia.
Warner Brothers, stop aiding and abetting the enemy. I just wanted to make that comment. I've been waiting for a couple hours.
Gotham Knights, what a terrible idea this has been.
Yeah.
Oh.
You notice that they're not really talking about that little bit of action that's going over there in Eastern Europe very much lately. Would you like to know why?
I know why. I'll let you say it, though. Say it. I want to hear it.
Well, because Russia was trying to soft-hand it when they were going in, and then they had basically they're fighting the entire West, and they said, all right, fine, fuck it. We'll go to war then if that's what you want. And they're absolutely kicking the shit out of Ukraine, dude. My God, they are just doing what they want, and it's what we expected day one. The mistake we made was that the Russians were trying to soft-hand it. They didn't really want to make total war. They were doing what we would call an actual policing action, right? But now they're fuck it then. And they're blowing the shit out of the Ukrainians, and they're desperate and they're whining. Zelensky, they're like, because the NATO is saying, well, maybe, after they caused the shit, right? After they instigated this whole goddamn thing, they're saying maybe you should negotiate and give up some land. And what's Zelensky's response? Fuck all you are. We ain't giving up Ukraine anything. Fuck you. He's literally swearing at him. And it's like, all right, you guys did this. You guys created this bullshit, you and your little bit of corruption, and you forced Russia to just take it all. Because I tell you, Russia had no interest in taking Kiev or Odessa. They didn't plan on it. Now they are. They're going to take it all.
And they
now.
probably will. Unless somebody steps in to stop them or something crazy happens. They probably will. And we said that from the beginning that Russia's. People get caught up on the things like Russia's using old equipment. Yeah, they're getting rid of their old equipment.
Yeah,
why wouldn't they do that? That makes sense. They don't have the ridiculous economy we have to just throw endless amounts of fucking tanks at shit. Mm-hmm. So what they're doing is they're using the old stuff that they've got, and they've kept their good stuff back until they need it.
And they decided to push it. Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, Thundero, you notice that now that Russia's just actually making war and doing and showing how powerful they actually are, no one's commentating anymore. No one's talking, Russia's much weaker than we thought. Oh, Russia, Ukraine's kicking their butt. You don't hear anything anymore. Anything anywhere, dude.
Yeah. Well, when you have old let 'em starve Henry Kissinger out here telling you're probably going to have to give up some land here. That's pretty much the signal that the elite have decided that's the play. That Putin's won. He's going to get what he wants. He'll probably end up taking everything, but then not keeping it. Right?
No, I don't
They'll
think
allow
so.
Ukraine to exist.
You know,
But he'll get what he wants. He'll get the regions that he wanted to liberate, quote unquote. And by and large, from what I've seen of the cities in those places, the Russians have been treated largely like liberators. So
yeah, they have.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
because that's what they are. Because
Yeah.
I'm not pro-Russian or pro-NATO. What I am is
No.
pro-Donbass. The people of
Yes.
the Donbass have been being murdered for 8 years and no one gave a shit. That's who I'm pro. And those
That's right.
people are starting to see peace for the first time in 8 years. And how joyous are they? I mean, go
Yeah.
because no one go watches that. No one pays attention to that. I
No.
do because these people are elated. Thank God it's over. You have so many videos coming out of soldiers who've been fighting for literally 8 years and finally taking back territory and meeting mom again. 8 years away from their family because of Ukrainian
It's
army
insane.
and these hardened soldiers just breaking down in tears, hugging mom. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is
The average
these videos.
American won't be aware of that for another 15 years when they finally make a documentary about that on the History Channel.
But you know what I'm
Right.
saying, right?
Yeah.
This is a completely unfair representation. And like I
Well, the
said,
other thing that they keep doing that people aren't talking about, or at least I haven't seen it, but there's a few Twitter like Russians and things, and actual news sources, and even people who live in Ukraine who aren't Ukrainian who are trying to be objective about it, and they've shown video of like the Russians have been able to alternate their troops out. Ukrainians aren't. They can't do that.
no.
Because we know this, we know the Russians have been able to do this because there's videos of troops returning home. Big whole divisions of troops returning
sure.
back to where they came from and having big parades and things.
Mhm.
And this sort of stuff is how you know one side's winning and the other side's losing. Because when you're winning a war, you have that luxury.
That's right.
Losing a war, you don't.
Yeah.
So we've done, and I think Putin was correct. When America intervened with throwing money at it, throwing weapons at it, all we did is make it worse. We didn't make it better for anybody.
Nope.
Because Russia's going to win. Like I need everybody to stop with this ridiculous fantasy that somehow the Ukrainians are going to be plucky enough and they're going to no. They'll put up a resistance, sure, great. Russia's going to win.
Sure.
He has to.
They'll
Putin
spin it
has to win now.
They force his hand, yeah. No, and they'll
Yes.
spin it because in the end, you're right. Putin won't take all of it. He'll take from the east. He'll take east of the Dnieper River, which he said day one, which is the point of the Donbass to free it. The only thing that I will adjust from my initial prediction is that I think now they're going to take Odessa.
might.
Where I don't think they were before. But here's the thing, though: them taking Odessa, which I do believe is an addition, you will have what is left of Ukraine to the west of the Dnieper River, and they will have zero access to the Black Sea. Zero.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And it'll be
Putin
tragic for the Ukrainians.
Well, it will be
largely.
horribly tragic. And Putin was leaving them an out, dude. He was. He was
Yep.
leaving them out, leaving them that port. Because the thing is, it will be a tough fight to take Odessa. But when it's taken, the vast majority of those people are pro-Russian. Do keep in mind, when the Maidan revolution took off, there were two cities that were harshly oppressed because of their pro-Russian sentiment. One was Mariupol, which has been freed. The other was Odessa. They locked up teachers in frickin' buildings and burned them to death. That's what the Ukrainian army did. Okay. Not the Azov Battalion, not the Esoteres or the other ones.
Regulars.
No, the fucking regulars, right?
Yeah.
Those people have been repressed and beaten down for 8 years. When Russia finally takes that, you're going to see the majority of that population finally come out and speak and rejoice, right? Because they were against the nonsense that was going on with the Maidan revolution to start with. And they have been being beat on, and NATO has been supplying and helping that for 8 years. Don't you be mistaken that this has only been going on a few months. No, the NATO has been causing this shit for freaking longer than 8 years, but they've been supplying the death for 8 years. And that's the situation. And fuck off, Warner Brothers. Russia doesn't care about you. They don't need you. They just had a Eurasian forum the other day, a matter of fact, and they're securing their deals with China and India and Bangladesh and Southeast Asia.
Well, that's what I see happening here, right? So Russia's economy, people were like, "Oh, it's going to crush their economy." No, they're doing all right. They're doing pretty good.
Especially up, dude. Their economy's up.
Especially considering they're at war, they're doing okay.
Yeah.
So here's what I think part of the play was for the military. Not even so much for Putin, because Putin, he gets a lot of shit as if he's some kind of dictator. He's not.
He's not.
And so I think what the military strategy was to get rid of some of this old equipment, and then now they're going to buy a bunch of new equipment from China and make some of their own, of course, too.
Sure.
I think that's really what they're doing here, largely, right? That's why you see, like, we've done it before. America's done it before. Vietnam War was all about that, getting rid of old World War II equipment and updating the military capabilities.
And oil and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I just get so frustrated with this weird jingoism that happens, because there's still a lot of people who hate Russia because Cold War and Russia bad.
Yeah,
I
sure.
get that. I understand that. I grew up in it too.
The Jubases particularly hate the Soviets, by the way, the Russians.
But that's not Russia anymore.
No.
Putin's not a great. He's not. I'm not saying Putin's like a great. He's not, Augustus or something. He's not a great leader or anything.
No.
But for Russia,
he's
a damn good leader.
He's done a really good job for Russia. And but the thing is, you mentioned about him being dictator. They keep pushing that thing. Like the other day, I saw a report came out that they're all the Americans didn't give a shit. The Europeans were all excited because there was one person in the Duma who was saying we should pull out of this war immediately. He's from like Vladivostok in the east, right? You never see opposition to Putin. Arr, arr, arr. They're going on and on. It's like, dude. Are you not paying attention? He deals with opposition constantly. This is not the Soviet Union. Most of the opposition he deals with is people who want more war. He's constantly having to deal with it. He's not. What are you doing, man? But whatever. Good on you, Warner Brothers. Russia will thank you. It's so telling that there's zero, not even a peep on this war anymore, because they egg in your face. And of course, whether it happened unintentionally or intentionally, the West is suffering from this effect, not the Russians. So someone screwed up. But I'm happy for the people of Donbass, because they're finally starting to not have to deal with snipers every time they go out their house.
Yes,
that's nice.
That's nice.
It's nice.
That's a good thing to have.
It is nice. Yeah.
Jeez.
Anyway, moving on from that, I just thought that was a funny article. This one's even funnier. Oh, sorry.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Mattel follows Disney's lead, announces Laverne Cox transgender Barbie.
Okay. Now, here's my question that I have for all the Barbie fans out there, and I'm talking to you, Brett and Amaran. Here's the thing. Why are all these different kinds of Barbies? Why are they called Barbie? Why don't they have another name, like Barbie's Friends or something like that? Why are they Barbie? Isn't Barbie a girl? It's like the name of the girl. So if you're going to make a new Barbie, then go ahead and make a new Barbie. Why are they all called Barbie? I know this is a very pressing point for the modern age, but I don't. Someone explain that to me. Why are they all Barbie? Why aren't they, Anna or Jen or Laverne? Laverne, is that her name? Laverne. I mean, well, why are they all Barbie? Can anyone help me out with that? Tower, you probably can help me out.
He could if he was here.
Oh,
okay. I don't know. I find that very odd.
It's weird.
I think there are some that have different names, but it is strange how they recycle that name a lot.
It is weird. I mean, I know, you got to put Barbie on there somewhere. I get it. But Barbie's Friends or something like that, and you come up with all kind of different characters. I just don't. It doesn't matter. This is dumb. And little girls aren't going to give a shit about transgender Barbie. But I just don't understand why they don't use different names. I understand branding, Brett. But why doesn't it say, Barbie's Friends or Barbie's Gang or some, and then Barbie's friend Megan, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah,
it's pretty weird to me. Pretty weird to me.
Now, I don't know who this Laverne Cox is. It's a very ironic name for a transgender. Do you know who this person is?
I believe they are some form of actor.
Okay.
But that's about it.
Alrighty. Well, looks like a dude in a dress. You're
pretty much right on that.
Yeah. Now, I know Buzz Lightyear is going to have he's going to be replaced by the black version, of course. We know that, which is weird. It's his first ever movie, and he's not even getting to be Buzz Lightyear. Oh well. But I don't know this person whatsoever. But like, see, you have all this. There's nothing wrong with this. I mean, cool. Actually, I think the different girls of different races. I don't think they care. They play with Barbie too. But if they get one that looks like them, they probably like it. More than likely, they
Yeah.
want all of them so they could play tea together or something.
Right.
But I
More
just don't.
adults are going to be buying that one than kids. Kids ain't giving a fuck about that.
Well, I mean, some girls like Barbies, but I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, no girl is buying a transgender Barbie. It's going to be a bunch of adults, and
that's true.
there'll be a bunch of adults going on social media and lying, talking about when they was a kid and they was trans and they wish they had a transgender Barbie. It's like
Right.
Barbie
No,
didn't
I
have
just
any genitalia to begin with, so you're
right. That's
lying.
I'm
true.
just wondering, Chester. See, where's my representation? Where's the colorblind Barbie?
Yeah, no, they should be purple.
Where's she at?
Yeah, purple.
Where's she at?
But I mean, you could have Barbie's friend Min, Barbie's friend Jaquanda, Barbie, Barbie, Barbie's friend Lucinda. I mean, I think the girls would love it, right?
Yeah. No, I don't have any problem with them having different
Yeah, just
colors
why don't they
of
have
Barbie
different names?
dolls, but why are they all named Barbie?
Yeah, yeah. And
Strange
once
to
again,
me.
what are you doing, Mattel? What are you doing with this rainbow crap? But whatever.
Oh, it's everywhere, bro. It's
Yeah.
already out because June is coming. So we were shopping today. It's all over, tons of
Right.
it. And you know what pisses me off about it? Not so much. I don't really care if they have a month, a gay month, whatever. Who gives a shit? But why do they get the rainbow? I like the rainbow. I think the rainbow's cool.
Well,
But no, now if you want to wear rainbow stuff, you're making some statement.
right. Well, no, technically the rainbow is owned by the Irish.
No,
Yeah.
the rainbow is owned by Christians. Damn it!
No, they appropriated that.
No, I'm not giving you this
They
one.
made tie-dye shirts.
It's literally in the Bible. The rainbow exists as a covenant from God, so he'll never flood the earth again.
You know that movie with that really good actor from Gladiator, where he plays Noah. It is a weird take,
Yep.
but whatever. They've done the Noah story so many times. But I do love the way they represented the rainbow in the end of that. It wasn't an arc; it was a God pulse in the sky. It was pretty neat.
Right.
I like that take. But
That
no
is cool.
big deal here. I just I don't care what they do with Barbie. But I just don't understand why they just don't have different names. It seems odd to me.
It is odd. It's
Yeah.
unusual.
When my daughter was young, I think she had a Barbie or two, but her real thing that she really loved was the Sylvana. Oh, they're like these
Sylvania?
Sylvania. Yeah, it's like these little teeny animal peoples, and they had houses and cafes, and she had a whole bunch of little buildings and lots of these little mini, animal people. I think it's called Sylvania something or another. Any guys know any? And they probably wouldn't know anything about that. But that's what she was really into. It was cute, actually.
That's cool. Now, the only thing Sylvania I know of, there's a town by me named Sylvania. That's it. That's what I got. And, well, obviously in Pennsylvania, but that's it.
Well, Sylvan simply means forest, right?
Yeah.
Deep forest. But anyway, moving on from this, I just thought it was odd, but I don't know who this Cox lady is. Does she still have her cock?
I wouldn't know.
I don't know, and I have no interest in finding out.
I think you should go on a in-depth research for us.
Nope.
Nope.
We could do like Crocodile Dundee and just check for yourself.
Sadly, the way the dating market is, I think I'm going to have to do that on first dates.
Oh wow, yeah, that's kind of a Trumpian thing to do there of you. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I will
Wouldn't
give
have
you
to be
this.
that way if motherfuckers wouldn't try to catfish people.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Catfishing is a thing. Now, with this one in particular, this dude, I don't know, I really don't know this guy, but this looks like a dude in a wig. He just does. However, I have seen some of these transgenders over the past so many years. Ooh, it's not so easy, and maybe when you're close up, it's easier. but it just seeing the pictures of them or doing or the stuff they're doing, like walking on red carpets and stuff like that. It's not easy, man. They're doing a lot of cutting on themselves, a lot of hormone. There's a lot going on there, a lot of work, man. That's a shitload of work to be a transgender dude. But yeah, so it is getting more difficult to tell, but not with this one. This one looks, yeah, this is Obama's brother. Alrighty, moving on here. This guy.
Our boy, YouTube pundit Eric July calls Gotham Knights, quote, dead on arrival. Questions who it's made for. I watched part of this video and I agree. I have absolutely no idea who this is aimed at,
Yeah.
because it seems to be aimed at nobody in particular. It's baffling. It's, you know what word it is, Chester? Flabbergasting. I'm flabbergasted at it. I have
Yeah,
absolutely nothing. I don't know who this is supposed to be marketed for.
It is weird. And I've seen some of this guy's videos. He's like us. He loves comic books.
Yeah.
Comic book movie. He's just he's like us, one of us.
He's more like you, Chester. He's a hardcore anarcho-capitalist.
Yeah, no, fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, I agree with that. But I'm just saying he's really like us. He's just a dude that likes his stuff, and he talks about this stuff. And it is interesting. We're talking about this game, right? That's not this game, this TV show that's coming out from the CW. Now, it's interesting to me because CW is in incredible disorder. They're trying to sell it. I don't know if they're trying to build a value or what have you. But anyway, Gotham Knights. We know what Gotham Knights is, right? We all know what it is. This is coming out of the video game. All right, so the video game, all right, we know the characters in the video game. But one of the things he's talking about, well, who is this for? If we look at this poster, this release poster, which is pretty boring as shit, but whatever. And we looked at this, tell me, who are these characters? Let's start on the right-hand side with the tall redhead. Who is that? Who could that be, Grimlock?
I'm guessing that's supposed to be Batwoman. I don't know.
Batwoman, sure. That's the first thing that would come to my mind. What do you think the second one is? That kind of Latino girl in the back.
I'm guessing, is that supposed to be Cassandra Cain? I mean,
maybe that would be my guess. Yeah.
I mean, this poster right here exemplifies not knowing what the fuck to do, because you're gonna do a Gotham Knight show and none of them are in costume. Like,
Yeah,
why
exactly.
would I care? Why would I care about like 5 like random teenagers looking like they're posing for a High School Musical, whatever the fuck part they're up to?
Yeah, but I agree with you. That probably would be Kane, right? I go with that, right? What about the middle one, Thundero? Who do you think that is? Gotham Knights.
That's a good question. Who do I think it is?
Yeah, who? By looking at it, you know Gotham Knights. Who do you think that is?
Oh, I don't know, Chester. You're asking me questions now.
Nightwing, maybe? That's what comes to my
Yeah,
mind.
probably Nightwing at the center. The reason why I was hesitant is because I could see them casting that other dude on the end as Nightwing.
Maybe. So it better be a Robin, right? One of the Robins,
Yeah,
probably. The next girl could be like a Huntress, or it could be Black Canary, race swapped. The last one here, maybe Jason Todd, right? Maybe.
Yeah, to me, that's the whole point. We shouldn't have to be thinking this fucking hard to stick on this goddamn poster.
Wait, it should be very apparent.
Well, here's the thing. The reason I did that is because none of them are any of those things.
What?
Yeah, none of them are any of those things we just named. None of the characters in Gotham Knights are sitting in front of you. None of them. They're all some weird, obscure, or created thing. These are no connection to the Bat family at all. Matter of fact, these two, I think, are actually villains from some obscure things. And I wonder if they give the list of who they're supposed to be. Maybe not, because I don't remember offhand. But they're not what you think. They're not this. They're not this right here. This is what you would expect: Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, and Red Hood?
Probably Red Hood,
yeah, Jason Todd, right? But it's not. They're none of those things. They're nobodies. And it's like you're going to make a Gotham Knights thing where you have some very recognizable peoples, right? You
Yeah.
got Batwoman, you got Batgirl, you got all the Robins, right? And of course, Dick Grayson being Nightwing. That's the Gotham Knights, right? There you go. You can even bring in the African dude, what is it called, Batwing, which I actually liked his comic book. Whatever. You got the Bat family. We know who they are. None of these people are those things.
Right.
And it's like, what?
So
But
literally, who is this made for? And why is it
exactly.
called Gotham Knights?
Exactly. And
Um,
his point is so poignant. It's so poignant because it literally is nothing anyone who would know what a Gotham Knight is would get. And the thing is, the general
yeah,
population has no idea what a Gotham Knight is. They have no clue. So
no,
what are you doing?
I don't get it either. And yet again, Chester, yet again, we still somehow have no good Nightwing live action material. It's not allowed.
No.
Somebody in DC, Warner, whoever, has decided that Nightwing can only be a comic book and video game character. You're not permitted to have him in anything else that's good. You can't. Shall not be done, even though he is perfect for his own
Oh
TV
yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Just imagine, right? The opening scene or the opening first episode. He's getting in a big argument with Bruce, right? Dick is
Yeah.
arguing with Bruce, and he's like, "I'm sick of your shit. I'm sick of your micromanagement. Fuck you. I'm going to do my own thing." And
Yep.
Batman just kind of sighs, and off he goes. And during the arc, he goes to Bloodhaven, and he does the job, but he finds, man, this is hard, and he learns, and he
Right.
starts to gain a little bit of respect for all the hard work Batman, Bruce has actually done. What a
Right.
fun little series that would be. You get some great action, you get a focus on Dick Grayson's Nightwing, and you would have a story arc. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, have Dick do a little detective work.
Yeah. But I'm just saying there would be,
It could be.
yeah, it would be fun. But no, we don't get that. We get
And you could
literally,
have at the end of the first episode, right? Because if you're going to do this, like let's quarterback it. You're going to do this. You need Nightwing to stand on his own, but obviously he's not totally his own character. He's part of the Bat universe, right? Bat family, and that's fine. So you have to have Batman kind of give him some kind of a send off sentimentally, even if they have their argument and they don't actually share the screen again in that episode. All you have to do is have Batman and Alfred. And Batman's, he's still keeping tabs on Dick, because of course he is.
Yeah.
And he's looking, and he just kind of smiles, and Alfred says, "What are you smiling at?" And he said, "I always knew he'd be better than me." Something like that. That's all you need.
Oh,
And then there you're off.
Yeah,
And you're off.
Yeah, it'd be cool. But no, that's not what we get. We literally get 5 characters that
Right.
have no connection whatsoever to the Gotham Knights. None. I mean, they're obscure characters that showed up in an issue or something. It's and they're a couple of them, from what I understand, are actually just created. But it doesn't make any sense. You could easily have them be recognizable characters, and this goes back to the problem we've seen all along. They absolutely refuse to bring in the already existing audience, right? They refuse. And of course it's very foolish. Like Halo is a good example of what they're doing with that. It's the Halo. If you're a Halo fan, you do not like that show. Very simply. So they're throwing away the automatic viewers and fans you're going to get, and trying to do something really cool that will grow more attention. Right? That's what they've completely thrown the idea away. Because who in the hell, who knows what a Gotham Knight would watch some dribble like this?
And why call it Gotham Knights? I just don't
Weird.
I mean, I understand why it's for the marketing, but again, is Gotham Knights that well known? Gotham, yeah, sure, but it's just dumb. It's yet again them making stupid business decisions for no apparent gain, and I really would love to sit down and talk with one of the executives and be like, "What are we doing here?
What
What is
are you
the
doing?
plan?
Yeah, because
What are you doing?"
yeah, the comic book guys and the video game guys, they're the ones who know who Gotham Knights are, right? And
Right.
but if you want to see a complete breakdown, and I haven't watched this particular video, but I'm sure because I saw heel versus babyface, his version of this. This one's probably better, to be fair. As over at heel versus babyface, he's a bit rambunctious, I think.
No.
Yeah, a little bit.
Hey, look, I love British Uncle Fester. Okay.
I do too, but you know what I mean. This guy is far more reasonable. He's a better speaker. He's better than Az, dude. Not to be rude.
Well, well, it's they have different approaches.
Yeah, but I like Eric.
Er-
He speaks. He's very
Eric
clear.
July is Eric July has one of the calmest "go fuck yourself" tones I've ever heard in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think he's better at it than Az. I understand Az's emotion, where he's coming from, and that's cool. And he's got his following. He's part of the Nerdrotic group, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got to understand, Az. Think about this. You're Brit. You have to pay your taxes. Your tax money goes to the BBC.
Oh yeah.
To make that shit Doctor Who. I'd be pissed too if I was him.
So I get it. Now I understand his angst. I just think Eric does it better is all. Although Az will do a broader range of things than Eric will do. I do understand it. But although one thing I don't understand, because I only kind of became familiar with Az because of Nerdrotic stuff. But his channel is called Heel versus Babyface, which is a pro wrestling.
They do every now and then. They do talk about wrestling, but I mean, let's be honest.
I think he's just over wrestling. It
became
so shit for so long, he just gave up on it.
Maybe.
I think most of I think Az is where a lot of like I said, Jim Cornette came up with a great quote years ago, and it applies not only to pro wrestling, but it applies to comic books. There are more people who used to participate in it than currently participate in it.
Yeah, no, that is true.
And I think Az is one of those.
Yeah, no, I understand his anger and frustration, but
and as Eric July said, he's not participating in it either. I mean, like he's covering some of that, but he's. You got to look at it. They just did this Batwoman show that somehow got 3 seasons.
Yeah.
That lost millions of dollars.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where it was nothing like the comic. It was full of all of this gender identity bullshit that nobody cared about. You could have told a cool Batwoman story because Batwoman does have a following.
We even have reference material. It's called a comic book.
Yeah. And you decided to yet again, for whatever reason, not do that.
Well, because as with all these things, it is just the message and bad writing. Yeah. That's all. And that's why they suck. I have to say, Az is an absolute masochist. You talk about his reviewing. Well, worse than that, he did with this other girl. He did the entire run of Naomi, dude.
Yeah,
dude.
That is so hilarious how Naomi was literally created 2 years ago
for this purpose.
She's for another Bendis creation, which is basically Peter Darker III. The comic didn't sell.
No.
They didn't do a good. I mean, they didn't even do a good job giving her origin story. Like the origin story for somebody who's supposed to be this great writer was from so haphazard. Like they gave you 6 issues and you still didn't even know what the fuck happens.
Yeah.
To give yet another show to Ava DuVernay because she's earned it somehow.
It looks like she's going down though, which is good because she's not talented at all. We see a lot of that, like Becky, the replacement Hawkeye. I mean, her name's not Becky, but that's a Becky. No one bought that damn comic book, dude. That thing failed so quick. But what did we get? We got that.
I didn't. I don't know. I told Thundaro I bought a comic online. I was looking for this particular. I think it was Sheena of the Jungle, and I got it. And they used a Kate Bishop Hawkeye comic as part of the packing.
Yeah,
that's how bad that comic did. That they just want to get rid of it. That they're putting it as part of packing. Because I'm like, I know I just ordered this one comic. Where the
yeah, they're trying to get you to buy it. Yeah, But no, we
No,
you know,
I wasn't charged for it. It just,
no, I get that. Yeah, they do
but
that. Yeah. Yeah,
like,
I
oh
when
god, that's
years
weird.
ago when my kids were young and still in the house, because I'm here in Japan and I can't find comic book. There's no comic book store anywhere near me. I literally have to get on a plane and go to Tokyo. So what I did was I don't know if they still have it, but Marvel used to have this subscription service, and they would
Oh, they done
mail.
away with that a long, long time ago.
Well, but they would
Unfortunately.
mail it to us, and I get a bunch of comics a month for the kids that they were interested in, and I'd read them with them, right?
Yeah,
Just for fun, because they were reading manga, of course, but I wanted them to have a little bit of Western influence too. But many times there would be some new comic in there that they were trying to promote that was sent for free. It wasn't
yeah.
as obnoxious as now, but they did that all the time. I know the name is Dash is Kate Bishop, but that's a Becky if I've ever seen a Becky. Okay,
Yeah, she's Becky.
that's Becky. But they've been doing that for a long time. And most of the time when we got the free stuff, I didn't mind it at all. Oh, it's interesting, right? I don't think the kids ever bit though. Because my son really liked Spider-Man and Flash. Flash was his favorite for a very long time. My daughter liked Spider-Man as well, but she liked Captain Miss Marvel, right? Back in
Yep.
the Supreme era where she was with Hyperion, right? But she liked those, and I'd read them with them. But it was because it was a good thing for me to be able to, kind of promote the English with them as well. But also, I read a lot of books to my kids. I think it's good for a parent to do that. You know. And Like I said, it was influencing. And the good thing today is they do love it. The problem is, I love Superman. They love the Joker. You know. I love Luke Skywalker or one of the Jedi. They love Darth Vader.
They'll
Unfortunately.
they'll
I'm good.
love them later too.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But you
They
understand
get
what I
older.
was
They'll
doing with it.
understand.
So,
Like I was never a big Luke Skywalker guy growing up either. I was like Han, but now that I'm older and after what they did to him, I realize how important he is
Yeah,
sure.
as a character.
I'm like that with Superman as well. Like when I was a kid, I was one of those kids. Fuck the big blue Boy Scout. Give me
Yeah.
Lobo instead, and I still love Lobo and everything. But I
Sure.
have a lot more respect for Superman and
I
what he
was an
represents and what he's
actual Boy
supposed to
Scout,
be.
actually.
I believe that. I believe everything you're saying to me right now, Chester.
Well, I mean, Jeff and I were talking about that.
See, this is how they let girls into the Scouts. They started with letting the primates into the Scouts. They just opened the door for everybody
That's
else.
right. That's right. Those damn Italians. But But no, I mean, Jeff and I were talking about this a little bit because he's my age on Drone Recorder last week, and you know, uh, it's one of those things that you really, really would be good to put your sons into Boy Scouts because not only do they learn all kind of useful stuff about how to use a compass, how guns work, fishing. I mean, all even cleaning a fish. I mean, all kinds of really good human skills. What it also does is teach you to be a responsible adult, to be a good
Hmm.
man, right? That's what the Boy Scouts teach to boys, right? And I think the world could do with some Boy Scouting, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, last I knew anyway, they're largely destroyed.
Oh yeah, no, they got him.
Yep.
They got him, just like they got everything else. Yeah, I know. And the ironic thing with it wasn't ironic. The funny thing with that is you're letting girls into the scouts, and of course, gay scoutmasters, which is no. They still have the Girl Scouts. Still exists.
Yep.
Amazing how that works, isn't it?
Yep. I was an Indian Scout too.
That's racist.
I'm sure that YMCA does not do that anymore. Yes. But I like the Indian Scouts. Actually, Indian Scouts are more fun than Boy Scouts, really. I only
I've
did it
always
for.
found it hilarious that there's a lot of white people typically. So there's some actual Indians, but a lot of white people who get really offended at the term Indian in replying to tribal Americans.
Why?
Uh,
They call
I
themselves
don't
American
know.
Indians.
They not only do they do that, but the ones who still have great connection to their heritage will just tell you, well, that was just the word they called us.
Sure.
Like that, it's just the white man or English word for it. Like,
It's
why
just a
is it so
generalization.
offensive?
Well, like the
Yeah.
word chief, people get so upset about the word chief. You do realize that's an English word, right?
That's a very English word.
It has
Even
nothing
the
to do with
spelling
the
of it is very
natives,
English.
dude. Right? I mean, shit. But they do get upset about those things. But like I said, I asked this question before. How pissy are the Indians? Doesn't seem to be too much,
No, they don't really care.
right?
The
It's
ones
other
the ones
people
who
that
have the time to care are too busy making money, and the
sure.
ones who don't, well, they don't because they don't have the time for it.
Well, I mean, because a lot of them adapted. They adapted to what
Yep.
they were conquered, and then they adapted. Now, fair enough, they do seem to have, I don't know, I only know a little bit, but they do seem to have some problems in their community, particularly with alcohol and drug abuse. It
Yes.
seems to be a problem, poverty and things like that. In certain areas, other places are making pretty good money and sharing it with the entire tribe. They're doing really well. But there does seem to be some problems in certain areas with the natives, and that's sad. I'd like to see them pull themselves up and do better. Uh, you know, but one thing has nothing to do with the other, however. But yeah, an Indian's an Indian, dude. I mean, what's wrong with that? I don't,
It's
you know,
offensive.
yeah.
It's offensive to them.
Is it?
Okay. I
Okay.
don't think it is. I don't think they give a shit. They call themselves that. Like the Cherokee Nation calls themselves the American Indians. I
Well,
don't.
when they're talking about
I
the
don't think
whole, they do. When they talk about themselves,
Yes.
they're a Lakota or they're a,
Right. They use the tribe name.
Pasquamkett
Tribal name. That's why I like tribal American. I think that's much more accurate. Even than Indian American, or American Indian. It just that's what they are.
yeah.
They're tribal Americans.
I
They
know.
like to be identified by their tribal name usually.
Sure, and that makes sense, right? As
Yeah.
they would. You're not a white guy. You're an Irish or you're a
Right.
Scot or a Welsh or a Norwegian or what have you. You're not white guy. I mean, you are, but you're not, right? But
Right.
the thing I find funniest though is with the Canadians because they use the word First Nation, and it's like not
Not
very
quite.
accurate. Uh,
Oh, it's silliness. Well, it's because people don't know what nation even means. People think nation just means country. No,
no,
nation means people.
yeah,
A nation is a group of people of a similar blood. Now, you could say that just means family, or you could say it means ethnicity. Whatever. Doesn't really matter, but that's what
right.
nation means.
That's why you
It's a
can use the
large
word
group of those
nation
people.
very flexibly, is because it
Yes,
isn't so specific. That's true. The Nation of Islam, for instance.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what is this Jeff saying? He says my name was invoked. It was, sir. We had two Chippewa kids in my scout pack. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I had a bunch of Narragansetts and Pasquamkets and the Micka. I don't know what the hell they call
I
themselves.
have to say to my fellow tribals, guys, our words are ridiculous. The
They can't
language
be.
was silly.
They
It
can't
was
be.
silly languages.
Yeah.
They were silly.
Well, it's interesting because their route and their migrations are coming out of the old world Eastern or Orientals. Like the
Yeah.
Japanese, for example, would be probably the oldest memory of it because the other ones have kind of modernized. Japanese actually carry a lot of ancient things with them. Where the Chinese threw a lot
Mhm.
of their way, especially after communism, but even before that, the Koreans are well. We won't talk about that, but the Japanese do still have memory of a lot of ancient stuff, and they're definitely coming out of that. And one of the relationships you can see is with the language. You can still today, even thousands of years later, words will correlate up almost perfectly, even today, with the Japanese language. So it's clearly their root language is coming from the same place. It's very clear.
Mhm.
So they do have that kind of connection, which is interesting. And Studying Native American stuff is pretty cool. Actually, there's some interesting stuff went on there, and especially when you're honest about it. I mean, because they had ups and downs, just like everybody else. They had good times and bad times. They had criminals and saints. They, just like any other people. But
Yep.
no one wants to talk about them realistically. He says one of them used to do some traditional fire hoop dance stuff with his dad. It was way cool to see. Yeah, no, I agree. I've been to many powwows when I was a kid.
Yep.
And I love me a powwow, dude. I love the dances, even though it's not these days. They tend to take things from all across America instead of their tribe
Yeah.
specifically. But still, it is fun. It's colorful. It's interesting to see, and the food is badass.
Oh yeah.
Badass. Indians can eat, dude.
One thing that is universal is when humans celebrate, we get down. We get that food and we tear it up.
Yeah. We
Every
dance,
language, every
sing.
culture,
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
When it's time to party, we eating. And we eating good.
Yeah. That's true. And the powwows I went to, no one ever cared that I was a white boy. I'm not an Indian in any
No,
way,
they don't give a shit.
not
They don't give a
culturally
shit.
nor genetically. But they could care
It's
less.
these weird ones who go to these colleges that come out hating white people. Most of them don't give a shit. I've been to reservations, seen family members. They don't give a shit.
No, they don't.
First of all, most of them, even especially the Cherokee, are white.
Most of them are, yeah. But even if you go to the ones where we still have actual Indians, genetically so, native
Yeah.
stuff, at least those Asian influenced ones. But don't start shit on their land. Don't make trouble.
No.
But if you don't do that, you're just a normal dude. They really don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
That in all my experience interacting. Now, I haven't interacted with Midwestern ones. They're the ones that have more to bitch about than anybody, really.
Yeah.
So maybe they're a little bit more angsty than the others. I wouldn't blame them.
Not from my experience. No, they're pretty chill. Midwesterners in general are pretty chill. I know it's where I'm from, and maybe I'm biased. I am, and that's okay. But I've been all over this damn continent, all over this country, to pretty much every state in the union except for the two ones that aren't on the continent and are on the 48.
Mhm.
And I will have to say, Midwesterners are the most chill people.
Yeah.
I know people don't think of that, but for real, as long as you don't cause any trouble or aren't loud or rambunctious, we don't really care.
No, and I get it. Why would they?
Yeah.
The thing with it is, I was talking a lot about breaking of treaties and stuff, and the Black Hills and stuff like that. But I was also in my brain thinking about the Cherokee and the Trail of
Oh yeah.
Tears. And the funny thing
Oh
with
yeah.
the Trail of Tears, people always want to go to this as an absolute atrocity done to the Native Americans. However,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, fine, but you don't understand why it happened. It had nothing to
Right.
do with them being Indians. It had to do with politics and money. And
Yep.
people want, politicians in Washington want to steal their shit. Had nothing to
Take
do
their
with
land.
Indians. Yeah,
Yep.
because they had their own language. They were highly evolved. They were involved in the politics. They had a lot of
Yep.
money. It had nothing to do with the poor little Indian being kicked around by a white guy. It was complete politic.
I'm fairly certain, Chester. I haven't confirmed it. I probably could though. That one of the greats, however many it would be, grandfather
Uh-huh.
was on the Trail of Tears. Because after that is when my great grandfather, who was the pureblood Cherokee, he didn't go west like the rest of them. He came up here to where basically here, the Black Swamp area,
Sure.
and he just started a family up here. But the rest of the family split off and went, with the rest of the Cherokee, basically. But that's what he always allegedly told what would be my grandfather,
Yeah.
or my great grandfather, and that's where the stories came from. I don't have any actual proof of it, but most likely that's true,
Right.
and that's how he got up here. Is because that's what happened after the Trail of Tears happened. A lot of them stayed with the tribe, but a bunch of them split off and went
Yeah,
all
sure.
over the place.
Yeah, it got real messy. But like I said, that was
Yeah.
very political. When I was a kid, one of the reasons I thought I had some Indian in me was because one of my uncles, my father's family, or his, no, it was, second wise, because it was like his dad's brother's kid, right? So his wife was like a Cherokee princess, an actual,
Yep.
Cherokee, Honto Cherokee. And as a kid, I probably just assumed that, oh, it's family, because they didn't distinguish, right? It's just family get together. There's one of your family, and that's probably where I got that idea that I had a little bit in me. Now I know I don't. So yeah, the Cherokee can still be found in the East. This was specifically in Alabama, where
Right.
she was, but you also got the creek down there. I think the Chippewa, is that one of them in Alabama?
I think so.
I think there's like 3
not-
or 5 or something like that.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with the maps of where they're located. I know the Cherokee Nation, the tribal leaders, has been making a big push in their territories, and because they have little conclaves, they're not some of them not so much reservations, but they just have like little towns that they pretty much control down south, especially in like the Midwest, and one of the things they were pushing in their schools was they were teaching the language because it was dying. Like it was just the language of the Cherokee was just straight dying. So they were teaching it to try and keep it alive. I guess even the Irish have been having that problem, and they've been fighting with it too to try. There's been a movement to try and preserve it.
Yeah,
The old Gaelic, and it's just interesting to watch, and it's tragic, really, when you think about it,
it
that
is.
these languages just die off that way.
But there's been a lot of people that have gone to try to preserve language and culture and
Yeah.
song, and we've had a lot of that, and good on 'em for doing that. But one of the things that's interesting about the Cherokee in particular, and it's actually worthy of study for anyone who's interested in it, because the Cherokee in particular, they were one of the conglomerate tribes, right? They had been around for a long time, and they had, like I said,
Yep.
they had their own center of government, their own language, and all that kind of stuff.
They
Written
had
language.
slaves.
They did,
Yep.
of course. But they're a conglomerate tribe, so they're not an actual single tribe of people. They were many tribes that had kind of formed together. And
Right.
if you look at back, I love looking at photography from the early years back in the 1850s, 1860s. If you go back and look at some of the old photographs of the Cherokee, you see some that look Indian-like, but you also see a lot of people who are white. They're just full-on
Right.
white, European white, but they're Cherokee, and that's as far enough back where we haven't had the bleeding and into the racial bleeding as much. And
Hmm.
it brings up the conversation we had a week or so ago in regards to the fact that there were multiple different races in the New World before the Europeans' migration came over, right?
Yep.
And I think the Cherokee are a representation of that. Some of the ones today that are white Cherokee and they say, "Hey, you're not real Indian." I've heard this argument, right? I
Hmm.
don't know that that's true. Seeing as the Cherokee are an amalgam, and I think they actually had some of the white tribes who were clearly, now maybe they came out of the Vikings, whatever, wherever they came from. But there were white
Hmm.
tribes and tribes that had white people in them. I think the Cherokee had a certain tribe that had joined them that were one of those. We don't know exactly where their lineage is coming from, but we'll say Viking just for convenience. That were part of them. So I don't know if that's 100% true in saying that. Some of the modern Cherokee might well be coming from those lineages. And I'm one that will certainly argue the fact that the Cro-Magnon people were certainly over there. And, just because of the cataclysm and all the trouble, it doesn't mean that pockets didn't survive. I mean, the Sami survived in Finland, right? They survived all
Right.
that stuff, and they didn't get reunited with the Aryans until thousands of years later, right? So I don't know that it's 100% impossible that they could be much older white pockets from earlier. But the most convenient thing is just simply saying where the Vikings go. Well, they joined the locals. They went native,
Yeah.
right?
They got them some of that funny from the ladies, and
They did. They did.
that was it. They
That's
said,
it.
"Oh, this is fine. We're gonna stay here." And they got tobacco. We're staying here.
Hell
We're
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
That's it.
But it is an interesting conversation. I don't know if the people are care to listen to it, and of course, I have to go to work. Nevertheless, that was fun. That was a good show. You enjoy yourself,
Yeah.
Grimlock? No,
Nope.
nope,
Nope. He's out.
no.
I
He's
forgot.
gone.
I thought I was on mute for a second. Yeah.
I'm glad. But
I don't know why I thought I was on mute.
But I always enjoy having these conversations. Now, tomorrow, we're at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do the comic book stuff, and we'll have some fun with that. There was several stories I saw today that I didn't cover because I thought they'd be fun to cover tomorrow. And I will remember to do the comic book spotlight. Damn, man, I had that. I had to go do the work, and I could. So I missed the show. And then last week I completely forgot. But I have a fun little comic book spotlight, and don't let me forget, you guys.
All right.
Don't
We
let me
won't.
old man it, please.
We won't.
Because
Next week I may not be on. We're going out of town, going to
Okay.
Tennessee
oh, cool, have
for
fun,
the
dude.
weekend, and so I might not be back in time. And even if I am, I might be too tired from driving. So
Yeah, that's fine.
just heads up.
No worry. It's nice to have someone to bounce off stuff, but Grimlock can come and save my ass. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it. But anyway, thank you all very much, and Thundero takes out of here, dude.
A very simple one, and it's not from me. Where'd it go? I lost it. Maybe I don't have one. Maybe I'm lying to you. Well, I'll just read this one then. Life matters through love. And if that's true, why does loving yourself not factor in? It ought to. You're not capable of expressing for something. You're not capable of expressing something for others you do not express for yourself.
That is true. Love thine self.
That's right.
Namaste. Later, everybody.